It is 10:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. Titans veterans were on the field with the rookies on Monday at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. The team signed two more rookies that were at minicamp on a tryout basis in former Baylor tight end Drake Dabney and UConn wide receiver TJ Sheffield, a local product who played his high school ball at Independence. In NFL news, the full international slate was revealed for the 2025 season. The first ever NFL game in Madrid will be between the Commanders and Dolphins in Week 11. The Vikings play back-to-back weeks in Europe against the Steelers, Week 4 in Dublin, and against the Browns, Week 5 in London. The Titans do not have an international game in 2025. NBA playoffs, the Knicks took a 3-1 lead in the Eastern Conference semifinals with a 121-113 win over the Celtics, despite a 42-point performance from Jason Tatum, who went down with a non-contact lower leg injury and had to be carried off. In the West, the Timberwolves took a 3-1 series lead, 117-110, the final over the Warriors. The NBA draft lottery held on Monday, and the Dallas Mavericks will have the number one overall pick in the draft. In the NHL, Carolina took a 3-1 series lead over the Capitals with a 5-2 win, and the Oilers lead 3-1 in the Western Conference second-round series over Vegas after a 3-0 win yesterday. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
No trip across the pond, at least for Tennessee this time around. Welcome in. Happy Tuesday morning. Me and the boys with you until 1 o'clock. 615-737-1045. You know the number. F&M Bank Chat. Off and rolling. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, where allegations against me are being made. Robert, why are people asking me if the podcast of The Install is not yet up? It is available in two parts in the Install podcast feed, is it not?
That is correct. If you, as of May 7th, so almost a week ago, the Install podcast was up.
Yes, so we have the two-part audio version, the video portion. I have not asked the powers that be, the digital people. Isn't Justin schlepping the video part of that again?
I believe so, yes. But you know what?
I haven't asked Justin because Justin is, dealing with a variety of different things. And also, I like Justin, so I don't want to be mean to him.
I will graciously, as your gracious leader, Bert, drop the link to the podcast in the chat.
You may do that. So if you want to hear the two-part version of the podcast, audio version of the podcast with Brian Callahan and Greg Cosell, breaking down the 2025 draft class. I'm biased. I think it's excellent, and that's not even to do with anything that I did, because all I did is get the hell out of the way and do it as best I can.
That is gracious by Bert.
Yes, it is.
He is a gracious leader. He does.
Leader is not how I would describe it.
He does what ought to be done, but would not have been done unless he did it.
Do most leaders show up to work with their ass hanging out? Because he got out of the chair this morning. For some reason, the morning show allowed him back into their presence. And then when I looked to see him get out of the chair, all I saw was pale white cheeks.
That's my fault.
Yes, it is.
So the other night.
And worse, because Lucas and then Blaine and then Dawn have to sit in that chair after you. So I'm sure Dawn will be very diplomatic and kind with you about you being cheeked up in her chair.
I'm always double cheeked up. I didn't fart in her seat. I just sat there. It's not like I just emanate stank. But it is my fault because I'm also in the doghouse with Cheyenne because 2 nights ago, her parents came into town last weekend. We bought snacks we don't normally buy, like Sun Chips, popcorn, oatmeal cream pies. And Cheyenne was very excited to get off work and eat one of those oatmeal cookies. And in my sleep, I ate an entire box of oatmeal cookies, 12 oatmeal cookies, 170 calories apiece. I ate the calorie necessity for a man in one day. I ate that in the night sometime on oatmeal cream pies.
How do you feel?
It was 2 days ago, so I feel exceptional now after I pooped the block of oatmeal out. But so the cheeks, which you aforementioned, those are my fault. I will own up to the cheeks being cheeky today.
Okay, very good. We are going to talk about things that they are specifically working on with Cam Ward now that rookie minicamp is done and dusted. The vets have reported, so you got the vets, you got the rookies, you got the UDFAs, you got a few tryout guys. who are latching on ahead of the voluntary stuff. So we will get to Brian Callahan's thoughts on that in just a little while. But no international games for the Titans. The full international schedule released. You have Sao Paulo getting another game. Again, you have Ireland hosting an NFL game for the first time. You have Madrid hosting a game, an international NFL game for the first time. So people are excited about that. Is Ireland this thing that college football and the NFL is now doing, where they take in American football to Ireland specifically? I've seen it sponsored by basically people advertising for tourism to Ireland. But if I'm going to Ireland, the last thing that I want to spend my time doing is watch a football game.
Yeah. So Brazil, Dublin, London, Germany, and Spain. I mean, do fans get excited about this? How many actual fans of NFL teams get legitimately excited because their team is playing in London or in Sao Paulo or in Berlin? Because the percentage of fans that go to those games, minuscule. So,
out of by percentage of the entire fan base, for sure.
It is minuscule.
For sure.
Like, how excited do people really get? Because it's cool, whatever. The game's on a little earlier. I don't mind waking up and having football at 8 a.m. to hold us over until noon, but it doesn't move the needle for me at all. Like, I am okay with the Titans not having to sacrifice a home game in their actual stadium to go fly across the globe.
Well, and that was the thing that might have had them flying internationally this year, and I still think may have them flying internationally next year, which would be a year early, based on the 4-year rotation that they have for NFL teams doing international games right now, just to avoid losing potentially a home game in 2027 when the new stadium opens. But obviously we'll talk about that next season if that becomes the case. I think that fans, there is a small percentage of fans that will make the trip. And for them, it's cool. Because if you haven't gone to Ireland or London or Madrid or Munich, or wait, are they in Munich or are they in Berlin?
Berlin.
So all awesome places. And if you needed a little extra push to make an international trip, whether it's your first, you've been before, something like that, then I do think that there are some fans that do enjoy it, but the vast majority of people are just kind of like, I just got to make sure that I remind myself that my game is going to be on at 9:30 in the morning on a Sunday as opposed to the noon or the 1 p.m. or the 3:30 that I'm used to. Because a lot of times, to be honest with you, I cover the NFL. I'll forget that the international games are on if I'm getting ready for a noon Titans game.
That's the only redeeming quality of it for me is, oh, nice, we have football a little bit earlier today than we normally would. But I am a consistent hater of the international games. I think it serves literally nobody except the National Football League.
Oh, sure. But
it doesn't serve the fans. It doesn't serve the people in the country that they're going to.
Sure as hell doesn't serve the teams and the players.
Does not serve player safety or any of those things. The only beneficiary is the NFL. So for me, I am a hater of the international games as a whole.
I love it because I get to cover international games for an NFL franchise. But again, I completely understand the perspective of fans who'd be like, I'd rather drive 20 minutes down 65 or whatever and see the Titans as opposed to have to work through the logistics and potentially give up a home game. If you're the away team, you're probably better with it than if you're the home team in London because you don't want to give up a home game throughout the course of an NFL season, especially because the inventory is so much smaller than the NBA or the MLB or the NHL. I think it makes way more sense for like what MLB does in Japan on an annual basis, or for the NBA to be playing international games because there's so many more games for you to pick from that why not?
And it's actually an international sport.
Yes, but the NFL wants that, which is, again, why it serves the NFL and almost the NFL exclusively, except for that small percentage of fans who are going to get a London trip out of it.
The poor Vikings, man. Like, they got to go to Ireland, play the Steelers, and then got to go to London, play the Browns, spend 2 entire weeks. Like, if I'm not mistaken, the Pittsburgh and Cleveland are the home teams in these scenarios, right?
Pittsburgh and Cleveland are the home teams against the Vikings.
So Minnesota had no idea if it was going to be going international in 2025. And then they realized they are, not for 1, but 2 weeks in 2 separate countries. Like, come on, that's got to be tough. How much food?
And it's in weeks what? It's in weeks 4 and 5. So they're keeping it consecutive at least. So I guess it's like when Malarkey kept the Titans out west for a couple of weeks. They lost both those games, so it didn't necessarily help them. Was Blaine Gabbert a Niner or a Cardinal that they lost to at the time?
I want to say a Cardinal. I don't remember. But how much food do the Vikings have to bring with them?
Well, that's the thing.
Dublin and London.
Do you remember, John, I think it was, would it have been the second time? No, because John got fired before the second London game. I just remember talking to John Robinson at some point. I couldn't remember if it was on the radio show or a different, maybe he was just talking to John Robinson like about things to the side at practice. But like he talked about shipping the specific kind of bacon that we have here in America because the kind of bacon that we eat in the United Kingdom is different. So he's like bacon, toilet paper, like all these different things.
We can't have our millionaire athletes eating beans on toast and blood sausage for 2 weeks.
That's what I'm saying. So like that, it's a whole ordeal. The logistics of getting an NFL organization overseas to play one of these games are nightmarish. But, you know, money is the answer to all of your questions until the end of time. And there is much more money to be made if you take the NFL internationally, especially when you're negotiating live rights.
How much food do the Vikings bring is also the question they were asking themselves when they were crossing the Baltic Sea. How much food do we bring?
We don't know what to eat over there.
Yar! No, that's a pirate. What do Vikings sound like?
Skull.
Hinga dinga durgan.
Oh, no.
I think you've just offended multiple ethnicities.
Vikings, you think I've just offended all the Swedish people in Vikings?
No, I think people are going to hear that and hear you not doing Norwegian or whatever that was.
Hinga dinga durgan is definitely Leif Erikson. Happy Leif Erikson Day. Have you not seen SpongeBob? Hinga dinga durgan.
Yeah, that is a classic SpongeBob reference.
Has SpongeBob made like a comeback among people of our age that just are able to get it on
ever left.
Yeah, dude.
Streaming?
I think he's
They're not still making new SpongeBob.
I don't know about that.
They might be.
No, I know the initial creator of SpongeBob passed away, and then they took it and morphed it into whatever cruel vision Nickelodeon had for it.
Okay.
But SpongeBob's been popping forever. It is a pop. I could drop you numerous. The Krusty Krab pizza is the pizza for you and me. Like there's a million different SpongeBob drops you could use.
As of April 5th, 2025, SpongeBob was renewed for season 16.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
So why are you doing Ross?
It's Ross Patrick.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. Let's start the morning with Bobby in Nashville. Hey, Bobby.
Hey, guys. What about these international troops who are over there in international want to see a live game? Wouldn't that be a reason to have them over there?
I'm sorry. Could you say that one more time? I didn't understand what you just said.
Our troops that are abroad stationed in other countries.
Oh, okay.
Them wanting to see a live game.
Yeah.
Sure.
That is one positive development of it.
That is still a minuscule percentage of it. And they do USO trips and stuff like that. And obviously there's a difference between having a football player show up and speak to you and you know, or coaches who travel and things like that. Because the NFL is always, I mean, because the United States military was paying them and they glossed over that fact for a period of time, that we're happy to do all of these things for the troops, but we'll take your money as well. Until that was exposed a couple of years ago.
No, but that's one positive thing, right? That that an NFL fan stationed in Berlin can there's an NFL game in my backyard.
Sure. I mean, are they? I don't know how that works with the military. They're just going to give them like the day off and be like, all right, boys, go catch a football game.
Like, no, you're a big Falcons fan. You can have the weekend.
I joined the military to get away from the Atlanta Falcons, not to go watch them in Berlin. All right.
I knew you could get tickets like that. I might join.
You in the military?
Oh yeah.
You work.
Which military branch has the least intimidating physical
Space
trial? Yeah, let me join. They call me the
in an
astronaut.
astronaut's outfit is that's what you need to be for Halloween. Because you've what did you want the three of us to be for Halloween this year?
SpongeBob, Patrick,
SpongeBob.
and Squidward.
Oh, well, so I'm obviously Squidward.
Obviously.
And I'm SpongeBob because I'm the star.
And I would be Well, I'm the star, and that's why I would be Patrick.
Oh, true.
You're SpongeBob. You're just the grill cook.
All right, very good. So we talked a little bit about maybe I'm Plankton. Maybe I'd rather be Plankton.
Yes. No. Plankton has like a robot wife, Karen, who's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, and Plankton
push
has
everyone away.
Plankton has like a sneaky big heart.
Squidward doesn't.
Squidward doesn't. He's ice cold.
You would be actually. Buck would be Squilliam.
Oh, the evil twin brother.
Squilliam Fancy Pants. Yes, you're going to have to play the bubble bowl. Yeah.
I love that. All right, so we touched on the Belichick situation a little bit yesterday, but there is something interesting here about the legacy of the greatest coach in NFL history that's kind of being lit on fire, and also some fascinating SEC. Is it a news item? It's news. It's controversial. It has to do with Greg Sankey. So we'll get into both of those things coming up next.
Hey, guys, it's Lucas coming up on 11 o'clock, which means that across Middle Tennessee, doors will be open. Well, I'm not like you, Buck. I think about lunch from the moment I wake up until Hattie B's doors open at 11 o'clock at any one of their 7 locations. The factory at Franklin, Lower Broadway, Melrose, Midtown, Nashville West, even the Nashville airport when you're flying in and out of town. Hattie B's is a family-run restaurant. It serves up your favorite Southern food, an authentic Nashville hot chicken, their fried chicken, hand-breaded, cooked to order, add your spice level, hot or not, all the way up to shut the cluck up, everything in between, whatever works for you. And you know they have the best sides in town. The Southern Greens, my personal favorite, the pimento mac and cheese. Here's what I want you to do. Download the Hattie B's app now. You can skip the line, walk in, get your Hattie B's famous hot chicken, and go back to the office, or order for delivery. When you download the app, you get a free dessert simply by doing so. Try that banana pudding, and you can start to build up those rewards. By the way, you want to bring the heat to your event, party, wedding, corporate function, let Hattie be your guest of honor. Drop-off catering to full-service staffed events. Go to HattieB.com. Friends, if you're new to Nashville or you've been here a long time, odds are you've got a clean-out project that the missus wanted to see done by the spring. Well, spring is here. In fact, it's almost over. So let me tell you about the most reliable folks I know that can come help. They are my friends at J&J Services. Over 20 years, J&J Services have been providing dumpsters for local businesses, construction sites, home clean-outs, and demolitions. They provide commercial dumpster service for your favorite restaurants and convenience stores. They provide roll-off dumpster service for everybody from 60-story high-rise to your neighbor's farm. J&J Services can offer trash compactors, making those large loads a little bit smaller. They can even supply you with porta potties for your special event. For the safest, most reliable service you can get in Middle Tennessee, call them today for a free quote. 615-599-7778, jnjservices.com, where they always keep it trashy.
The chat has devolved into guessing which zone personalities would be, or which characters on SpongeBob zone personalities would be, because, of course, that's what we started the morning with. Coming off NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, we got NFL schedule release, so let's talk SpongeBob.
Some of them are really good fits, I'm not going to lie. Like, some of them just, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Blaine as Mermaid Man, Zach as Barnacle Boy. That delights me.
Don makes a great Sandy.
Slay would be Larry the Lobster, the most athletic.
Are we sure? Is Larry the Lobster the most athletic? No, he's muscle-bound.
No, did you see him out there playing volleyball when SpongeBob ripped his pants? Are you kidding me? He was a superstar.
All right, we can flesh this out throughout the course of the show. Something else that's being, turn of phrase, fleshed out is Bill Belichick's relationship.
Ew.
He looks like Mr. Krabs without the shell.
Please, I get after he talked about her squeezing the juice out of Bill Belichick yesterday.
That was also
freshly squeezed.
A poor choice of words.
God. Anyway, so we got 73-year-old Bill Belichick and 24-year-old Jordan Hudson. And, most recently they have attracted the world's attention because of Pablo Torre of Meadowlark Media's reporting around Jordan Hudson being not necessarily welcome. I think he used the word banned, but North Carolina has since refuted that. He stands by his reporting.
He has refuted their refuting. Or refusion. What's the
refusion?
What is the
definitely not that?
What is the noun version
girl's name.
of the word refusion?
Yes, this is my daughter Refusion.
It sounds like you're naming her Rasputin.
Rasputin would be a great name for her twin boy, for her twin brother.
All right, let's. God help the kid that you ended up naming. Refutation.
The action of proving a statement or theory to be wrong or false. So Torre refuted North Carolina's refutation of his reporting.
Right. And the report was that Jordan Hudson, the 24-year-old, allegedly 24-year-old, there is reason to believe that she may have been falsifying some documents around her age to make herself a year older than she actually is, which is also a part of the reporting, that she's not welcome at the North Carolina football facilities.
I'm sorry. I think it's so funny that for her there was a big difference between 19 and 20. and
yeah, because then you have Bill Belichick dating a teenager.
I mean,
it's
all bad, man. It's all bad. It's all weird.
It's all bad.
It's like, oh, nope. Oh, but we can tell people I'm not 19. Tell them I'm 20. Oh, good. Okay, then that won't be weird.
So there has been pushback from North Carolina. There has been infighting among North Carolina powers that be about even hiring this man on the front end. And then there was the reporting of Pablo Torre about Bill Belichick's buyout. Can we hear from Pablo Torre? Is this on his podcast or is this on the Dan Le Batard show? It's all part of Meadowlark Media. Maybe we'll just say that.
I think it's his podcast.
Pablo Torre, the name of the podcast for Pablo is Pablo Torre Finds Out. And what he's set to find out about this week was Bill Belichick's relationship with Jordan Hudson, unfortunately, for those two. It is fascinating to think about Bill Belichick at this stage of his career, and Pablo articulates it perfectly there. Again, that's Curtis. So his podcast is called Pablo Torre Finds Out. That is an excerpt from an interview that he did with the Dan Le Batard show, which is also a podcast. It is a story about power and how one of the most powerful people in the world of football in our lifetimes, and arguably ever, for the level of control that he had over one of the most dominant organizations in pro sports for 2 decades. He is now citing a 24-year-old, his girlfriend, as his muse in a book that he just wrote at age 73 when he's essentially been boxed out of the NFL after being let go from New England, working his way through the ranks of college football, we think, but even that is such a TBD type of situation for all the reasons that you just heard articulated about his contract situation. Is Bill Belichick in danger of just crashing out on his entire football legacy in the year that we have spent talking about the two of them together? Because the Tom Brady thing was the first kind of body blow, right? Tom going to Tampa, winning a Super Bowl without Bill, Bill making the playoffs only once. And how many years was it without Tom in New England? Was it 4? Was it 3? They made the playoffs in Mac Jones's rookie year, I remember, because the Titans played up there in Foxborough and lost. Mac Jones had a career day.
Yeah, they got blown out by the Bills in the playoffs.
All right, so they make the playoffs there, but how many years was it for Bill without Brady? I want to say 4.
I think 4.
So let's just say 3 to 4 years. That has dinged his legacy, but now this entire situation, is Bill Belichick going to be thought of more for what's happening right now than he was for the previous 2 decades, 3 decades, damn near 4, of work in professional sports as a Super Bowl champion for the New York Giants, for the New England Patriots, and arguably still the greatest coach in NFL history. It is a fascination to me.
I think when things like this happen, I say things like this, this
Where
kind of
have
thing
you
never
ever
happens.
found a thing like
but
this?
I do think when the dust settles on a person's career, the thing that's remembered, it will be the Super Bowls. It'll be Bill Belichick right under Don Shula with the all-time wins record, all the rings, the Brady years. But it's just so insane. The guy that couldn't stand Tom Brady having his personal trainer around.
The doctor that wasn't a doctor.
In the facility, Alex Guerrero. Yeah, like that was a huge point of tension between the two. That this guy was even in the building around the facility is having his girlfriend running around like she runs the thing, like it's her operation outside of the actual football aspect.
It is his operation that he has given her the keys to.
Yeah, I've never seen a bigger 180 from a coach with that sort of status in terms of how he carries himself.
Because there has never been a coach with that sort of status. And
No.
at least in my lifetime. I know Saban is talked about in the same way in the college football game.
No, but that's what it would be. That it would be like Nick Saban. Because those two have had somewhat parallel paths in their success. They're very close. They worked with each other in Cleveland. Robert and I talked when you were gone about that HBO. I don't know if you ever watched that HBO
Yes, it was
documentary.
excellent.
It was awesome.
And Bill came out looking the better of the two.
It would be like if Nick Saban, can you imagine Nick Saban doing something like this? I mean, Nick Saban and Miss Terry have been faithfully married for years and years and years.
Buddy,
but you know what I mean.
Bill Belichick doing something like this.
It's the most no-nonsense coach of our football lifetimes, the most anti-distraction coach of our lives, pulling this stuff with it just peppering the headlines with everything that has to do with anything except football. It's just crazy.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the conversation in the meantime. Yeah, to me it is a power dynamic that has the impact to further diminish his legacy, even though he is still a champion many, many times over. I don't know, are people losing respect for Bill Belichick throughout the course of this process? And there will be people who never liked Belichick or never respected Belichick for the jump because they think he's a cheater. And there will be people who never liked or respected Bill Belichick because he was a jerk for a long time. But you always had at least some level of professional admiration for him because of who he is, how he went about it, and he did it his way. And this is still him doing it his way, but now everybody's looking around. Charles Barkley is out here publicly commenting as one of his close friends about, I don't normally comment on people's relationships and things like that, but I'm going to have to check on Bill. I would love an honest moment from Nick Saban. on this. It'll never happen in a million years. But I'm dying to know what Nick Saban
I wonder if
thinks
they've talked about it.
And see, I'm trying to watch
There's no
them.
way, right?
I'm trying to watch him go on a double date. Bring Miss Terry along.
Oh, my
see
goodness.
what Miss Terry thinks.
Yes.
Surely that's it's been a year. They've had to have been around each other at some point in the last year. Surely that has happened at some venue, some setting, something like that. God, I can't. What is Miss Terry talking to Jordan Hudson about? Anyway.
Casserole recipes.
Matt is in Nashville up next. Hey, Matt.
Hi, guys. Hey, appreciate the show. Hey, I'm trying to figure out, and I have been for decades, why any of us should care what Bill Belichick does away from the football field or the Kardashians or anybody like that.
Okay.
It doesn't affect my life in any way, shape, or form.
Well, Matt, let me ask you a quick question, and I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry, but
No problem.
because there is a football dynamic, because the university reportedly has asked her to not be around the football situation because her presence is impacting, they feel, the football situation. Does that make a difference to you at all?
If her presence is actually affecting the program, yeah, that makes a difference. Yeah, then she needs to go away, without a doubt. But not from Bill, from the football program.
Sure, for sure.
Stay away.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this fascination that everybody seems to have with, celebrities, quote unquote, is bizarre to me. I mean, it doesn't affect my life in any way, shape, or form, and it never will. That's the part that, I don't know, the guy's getting ripped. And I'm not a huge Belichick fan, but I hate it when anybody like this gets ripped for something that doesn't affect their lives. You know what I mean? It's too much for me.
And I think that's
I'm not blaming you guys for talking about it.
No, it's a fair point, Matt. We are using it as an entry point because it is sports adjacent, right? It's like Stephen A. Smith potentially running for president. Or thank you for the call, by the way.
Well, if there wasn't an involvement with the football program, like if she had nothing to do with North Carolina football and Belichick was just dating a 24-year-old, like we'd look at it and gloss over it pretty quick. We would not be talking about it to the extent that we're talking about it.
For sure.
Like she has been ingrained in that program
has been
from the jump.
accused of and reportedly has expressed a desire to not have her around these things. That then opens the door to talk about, will it impact his ability to do this job?
I mean, the reporting is you got Pablo Torre out here saying Belichick might not coach a game for North Carolina ever.
That's a huge
with his
story.
buyout. Like, yeah, it is a huge story.
And
so
she has a pivotal role to play in why that might in fact be the case.
And the tension in that building with the powers that be about the whole situation could certainly affect
before
football.
And now turn that up to 10 afterwards after they realize, oh my God, what did we sign up for?
We'll be turned up to 10 at the 104.5 The Zone Golf Classic, presented by Ferguson, Monday, June 9th. We'll be at Nashville Golf and Athletic Club. Every show broadcasting live, located in the heart of Cool Springs. This historic golf course features breathtaking panoramic views of the beautiful Middle Tennessee countryside. So purchase your team today. Time is running out. Choose between two flights, 8 a.m. or 1 p.m., and spend the day teeing off with us. 1045thezone.com to purchase a team.
All right, I want to take a dip into another college sports related story. It is college sports directly related, but it's Oklahoma and Texas A&M in the SEC softball tournament. This was a situation where Oklahoma and Texas A&M were both declared co-champions of the 2025 SEC softball tournament after the championship game was canceled due to inclement weather at the game and predicted for the rest of the day. So the SEC puts out a statement with a message from Commissioner Greg Sankey that both teams would be declared co-champions for the championship game because of the weather situation. The decision was made, according to the SEC, in an abundance of caution for the athletes of both programs as they prepare to travel home before strong storms approach the area later today and begin preparations for the 2025 NCAA Division I softball championship. The commissioner's regulations, quote, in the event inclement weather or other factors prevent the completion of the championship prior to the date and time when the NCAA requires notification for selection to the NCAA tournament, the highest remaining seed in the tournament at the time of suspension shall be designated as the automatic qualifier. It's the first time the championship game of the SEC softball tournament has not been played, and obviously the first time that two teams have been named co-champions that way. We got a text from somebody who works in collegiate athletics about this, bringing this to our attention. And that person also followed up with the idea of, imagine Greg Sankey doing this in football. Now, you can't compare the two, I don't think, first and foremost. But if I'm an A&M or an Oklahoma softball fan, I'm pissed. If I'm the teams, the athletes, the coaches, I'm pissed, even though the NCAA tournament is infinitely more important than the conference championship game. The conference championship game is still a huge deal. Are we going to start doing this with non-revenue sports? And I know it's an extreme example, but like, what is the purpose of the competition if rain is enough rain throughout the course of a day and a little bit of travel inconvenience is enough for you to throw up your hands and say, nah?
Yeah, it's very anti-SEC, right? It's very easy for people to reply back, oh, it just means more, right? Just not even going to play the championship. Co-champions. It would never happen in football, in terms of the weather.
Never in a million years.
But also, it's set up to where it can't.
Right.
They play in a dome, right? They play at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It can never happen in basketball because it's indoors. We know no sport is more susceptible to being affected by weather than baseball or softball.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, just no sport is more susceptible.
I was going to say, well, what if they played it at the Orange Bowl, but this is the conference championship game and the conference
exactly.
championship game.
So, and what did you say you had what was the deadline for these games to be done for the NCAA?
So
the selection show?
The date and time, it doesn't have the specific date and time, but basically the NCAA requires notification for the selection to the NCAA tournament. So I guess they were up against the deadline.
Because theoretically they had Sunday, but it looked like inclement weather was sweeping through the area the entire weekend. So I hate this. I'm totally with people that were shocked by it. But I would also ask, okay, so what is your solution?
That's a great question.
Like, what's the solution? If you have to have everything done,
move the deadline.
Yeah, but that's an NCAA thing. Like, what is the solution?
That's really the only thing that I could come up with, because I think they did the best situation with what they could based on what the NCAA was requiring of them. But I think that's an error on the NCAA's part for them to look around and be like, all right, we understand. Let's push this thing back a day.
Sure.
And let's get it done.
That's what it would have to be, because if there's inclement weather that's going to prevent you from playing a game, and you got to get the game in, and both of these teams are going to be in the postseason no matter what, like, it sucks that neither of them get to celebrate an SEC championship. But it is a tough spot that we haven't really seen. Surprisingly, we haven't seen a situation like this to this point.
Did anyone else get an ick when you read abundance of caution? Like the COVID ick? I haven't heard that phrase since COVID.
Little flashback, huh?
Why would you do that?
PTSD.
It made me feel a little weird.
All right. Well, how are we going to pull ourselves out of that weirdness?
Well, if you want to call in and give us your oh no this week, you have a chance to win not one, but two fantastic prizes. 4 tickets to see Nashville SC host New York tomorrow night at Geodis Park, and 4 tickets to Game Terminal's 4th annual Beer Fest this Saturday, which Lucas and I will be in attendance of. Buck might be there in spirit.
I will be there in spirit only because I will be purchasing tickets to make sure that the Humane Society gets some money. But I will not be going.
Be that as it may. Call in with your own note. 615-737-1045.
First place gets the Nashville SC tickets. Second place is going to Game Terminal. All you need to do
Hold on. That's one prize.
No, it's one prize.
I ain't putting in 2 winners now.
Yeah.
Why not?
It's a package deal, buddy.
Yep.
Is it actually?
Yes.
Yep.
That's a lot for one person to win.
Yeah, better be a good submission.
Maybe it's a big family. Maybe they got good kids and bad kids.
All right, well, then I want good calls, all right? Don't suck with some of these calls, because some of the calls have sucked in the last couple of weeks.
As pointed out by Brady in the F&M Bank chat, tomorrow night at Geodis Park, $1 hot dog night for the New York Red Bulls game.
We got to go.
I'm down.
You and I are working.
I'm not working tomorrow night.
I'd be like when you go to the bank and you got to send your money through a tube. That's how them hot dogs will be going down.
Yeah, well, I just, based on your oatmeal cream pie experience, I fear for what might happen on the other end of that. 615-737-1045 is the number. Call in and tell us what in sports made you say, oh, no.
Hey, guys, it's Lucas. I got to tell you about Fog Street Lawn Club, Nashville's premier soccer pub, your go-to spot to watch Nashville SC games. We've been talking about the boys in gold. They're fun. They're rising up the table. They're scoring goals. If you can't make it out to Geodis Park for Wednesday or Saturday night's games, Fog Street Lawn Club is the perfect spot. It's also open early for Premier League action on the weekends. A great group of fans getting together to watch some of those games as that season wraps up. But no matter the sport, Fog Street Lawn Club makes sure you won't miss a moment. Great place to go watch NBA, NHL playoff action. You'll never get bored. Check out that rooftop. It has the most picture-perfect view of downtown Nashville that you can find. You can play British-style lawn bowling or cornhole for free on the rooftop, or go next door and play some axe throwing at Bad Axe. Located near the Gulch in the upcoming Pytown neighborhood, Fog Street Lawn Club gives you the experience of downtown Nashville with a great escape from the hustle and bustle. Expansive, big space, bars downstairs, rooftop upstairs, and a great menu of British pub-style food. Happy hour Monday through Thursday, 3 to 6 p.m., and I will see you at Fog Street Lawn Club.
Six 615-737-1045 is the number. Call in and tell us what in sports made you say, oh, no. Robert, if they do just that, after we go around the room and give our submissions, what can they win?
They could win 4 tickets to go see Nashville SC host New York tomorrow night at Geodis Park, and 4 tickets to Game Terminal's Game Terminal's 4th annual Beer Fest this Saturday. But not just beer. It's a great day filled with beer, cider, alcohol tasting, games, fun, and excitement. Buy your tickets now for $40 or $50 at the door. Beer tasting, a gift bag, and swag will be included for each person, with portions of the proceeds going to Nashville Humane Society Association.
Jesus. 615-737-1045.
One of them.
Shut up.
They helping somebody.
Shadows.
I don't even know how to do it anymore.
That means I'm not sending you there enough. 615-737-1045 is the number.
It is the Nashville Humane Association.
Association.
Not society.
That was one of
Not
17
coalition.
words you got wrong in the middle of that read.
Nashville Humane Coalition.
All right. Well, speaking of associations, the National Basketball Association and their draft lottery last night was a joke. The idea that the Dallas Mavericks are going to be selecting first in the NBA draft as a result of the draft lottery after executing one of the dumbest, if not the dumbest trade in the history of their sport, the fact that Nico Harrison and that organization are going to get bailed out by the NBA here for the right to draft Cooper Flagg is many, many words that I cannot say on FCC Safe Radio, but it is a joke. It is the thing that made me drop my head into my hands. It is the thing that is going to allow people the opportunity to have conspiracy theories about the NBA being rigged. The NBA is probably the most likely league to be rigged, given that they have had, didn't Tim Donaghy go to jail for rigging games as an NBA ref, or at least have some level of punishment, punitive situation? They are a clown show, bro. I cannot get over how ridiculous it is for the Dallas Mavericks to get that. I'm happy for Mavs fans. I think it's laughable that that organization is going to get to cling to Cooper Flagg for the opportunity to draft him number 1 overall. That made me say, oh no.
Yeah, so is Nico Harrison going to keep his job then?
Somebody needs to be fired.
I love that I saw a picture of him on Twitter, and it was like, if I send you this, it means just wait on it.
Oh, you mean the side-eye picture of him? Yeah, I see the side-eye picture of him. Yeah.
We'll talk more about the lottery. I think it's prompted a lot of discussion. We were talking about the NHL draft lottery just a couple weeks ago with the Preds dropping down to the 5th pick.
Both of them stupid.
Also, sucked to see Jason Tatum go down after a 42-point performance last night.
That was an awesome game.
He was, and that series starting to feel over with the Knicks taking a 3-1 lead, and Tatum, I don't know, that MRIs are happening, so we don't know exactly what the injury is. Didn't look good. My oh no goes to the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, I saw that.
Offensive line help is on the way, 49er fans. It was fun to watch 49er fan accounts say, oh, good, O-line help on the way. A former first-round pick as the Niners signed former Eagles and Titans offensive lineman Andre Dillard and also former Titans offensive lineman Nicholas Petit-Frere to 1-year deals.
I will not disclose my sources, but I had a Titans former offensive lineman text me this and saying, who's going to tell Brock Purdy? Now, you can make your guesses.
Yeah.
If you want to.
Hard.
There's only a few. There's only a few out there. I bet you don't guess which one it is, which one of them it could be.
I'll give you 2 guesses, and your first one's wrong. We're going to fire you.
But
this is fun.
I was at a wedding. I was drinking during the day at the wedding when I got this text, and I literally said out loud, oh, no.
It's funny when, NPF is just going to be Titans fans and mentions and tweeting at Niners fans like, oh, just you wait. And honestly,
you fools.
But the thing is, I don't think that deters fan bases from getting excited. It's like, fans are jaded about this particular player. Maybe it didn't work out the exact way you wanted. Like, what's an example of that for Titans fans? Who's somebody the Titans have signed where fan bases of that player's previous teams are like, all right, we're warning you, and Titans fans are like, no, we're excited anyway. I feel like that happens. But when you sign Andre Dillard and it's Titans fans, Packer fans, and Eagles fans saying, oh, buddy, get ready.
What are you doing?
So, yes, that made me say, oh, no.
Yes, that's a terrible one. All right, Bert.
Quarterbacks are moving around in the transfer portal, and late last week we learned that former Northwestern, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt quarterback Mike Wright, he let ESPN know he is verbally committing to play quarterback at East Carolina, and even notes that he plans to play quarterback for the Pirates. He started 16 games over his career at those 3 stops. I am here to tell you that Mike Wright will be practicing at quarterback. He will not be playing quarterback. He is not going to unseat the incumbent Caden Hauser. Mike Wright, I unfortunately have to inform you that you have signed on to be a backup. He'll probably get some packages. They'll probably throw him out there and let him run a couple plays. But
yeah, how many guys portaled to become a backup?
This has to be the first portal bringing backup. Where I remember Gardner Minshew did transfer out of East Carolina and initially said he was going to Alabama
to be a backup,
to be the backup until Mike Leach brought him out. Took him to Washington State, and I believe made him the highest, the most passing yards in school history.
That was Mike Leach's pitch to him. Do you want to go be a backup quarterback, or do you want to lead the nation in passing yards? So that's what he did.
So Mike Wright going to ECU to be a backup is my oh no.
He's been a backup at pretty much everywhere he's been since his starting stint at Vanderbilt.
That was not his choice, though, until right now, right? Because everywhere else he had a chance to compete for the job, and it was just beat out.
For the chance to win a spectacular prize of a handful of Nashville SC tickets and 4 tickets. It's 2 tickets to the soccer game and 4 tickets to Game Terminal. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, 2 tickets to the soccer game and 4 tickets.
4 tickets to the soccer game.
Yeah, 4 tickets to each.
Thank you for
tickets?
listening.
Take the whole family.
8 tickets.
I'm giving 8 tickets away to somebody. These better be the best submissions we've ever had for anything in the world if I'm giving you 8 tickets to anything.
Well, there's a lot of them.
615-737-1045. What in sports made you say, oh, no? Let's start with Peyton in Hendersonville.
Hey, how are y'all?
Good.
Good. So the thing that made me say, oh, no, was Saturday night, a meme got put out on Twitter, I think, by one of the baseball podcasts after the Rockies lost 21-0 to the Padres. And says, Colorado Rockies emergency open tryouts. Record 6-33. Last game lost 21-0. Think you can help? Able to throw a baseball at least 45 miles an hour. Not afraid of Coors Field altitude. Emotionally prepared for back-to-back losses. Familiar with the basic rules of baseball? ? You might be our next starting shortstop, or center fielder, or manager, or mascot. Honestly, we're open to anything. Date May 15, 2025. Location Coors Field. And that made me say, oh, no, for how bad the Rockies have been this
that's
year.
crazy. Thanks for the call.
Who put that out there?
It was a baseball meme account. But,
okay.
This was happening while me and Fitzy were doing Fox Sports on Saturday night, and I thought it was a misprint. I thought that they misread the box.
21-0.
21-0, a football score in baseball.
God.
Tough scene.
Do you guys know what the Rockies mascot is?
Is it a boulder? I don't know.
It is Dinger, the Stegosaurus.
What?
Or no, actually a Triceratops. Yeah, it's a dinosaur.
Why is it a dinosaur?
Who knows? But I love stuff like that.
And Peyton just dropped off, so he's not going to win the tickets.
It's all up to you, Corey.
Remember to stay on hold. All right, Corey. Don't screw up. What do you got?
So my oh no is for the Atlanta Braves closer situation. Rossell Iglesias is 3-3 with 3 blown saves on the season. Another one last night that ended up going in the Braves' favor as they won. But this dude has 11 earned runs in 15 innings with a 6.06 ERA, and 2 of his blown saves, the Braves ended up getting wins in. So that's why he has 2 of his 3 wins, because he blew saves.
That's brutal. All right. Well, we appreciate the call, Corey. Congratulations. You're going to the soccer game and Game Terminal, if you so choose, with 7 of your friends, apparently.
When he was talking about ERA and all those baseball stats, I felt like a kid again in geometry. I have no clue what the hell he was talking about. I assume it was bad.
It is bad. All right. That's what made us say, oh, no, in sports this week. Speaking of the mess that is the NBA draft lottery, there are some people who are alleging that the NFL should do something similar. We can talk about that coming up next. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Would you like to hit the buzzer beater with your retirement goals? Then you got to call Trajan Wealth today to learn more about their tailored wealth management solutions. The simple truth is that there is more to retirement planning than simply calculating your expenses. Trajan Wealth can help you design a strategy based on realistic options that align with your goals and your circumstances. So if you're interested in wealth management that's designed to protect, maintain, and expand your financial portfolio, Trajan Wealth offers retirement income planning services that start with an in-depth understanding of your short and long-term goals. So to get these strategies, visit them at either of their local locations, Brentwood and Franklin. Give them a call, 615-270-5000. That's 615-270-5000, or online at TrajanWealth.com. Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. This is a paid advertisement.
It is 11:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. Titans veterans were on the field with the rookies Monday at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. The team signed two more rookies that were at minicamp on a tryout basis, and former Baylor tight end Drake Dabney and UConn wide receiver TJ Sheffield, a local product who played his high school football at Independence. In NFL news, the full international slate was revealed for the 2025 season. The first ever NFL game in Madrid will be between the Commanders and Dolphins. That's in Week 11. The Vikings will play back-to-back weeks in Europe against the Steelers, Week 4 in Dublin, and against the Browns, Week 5 in London. The Titans do not have an international game in 2025. The Chargers' Week 1 opponent in Brazil has not officially been revealed, but Ari Myrov reporting that it will be an AFC West matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs on Friday night of Week 1. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
The NBA draft lottery is rigged, or at least that is what is being alleged, after the Dallas Mavericks, who ended up with the number 1 overall pick and almost assuredly the right to draft Cooper Flagg, the star out of Duke. Do you know what their odds were for the Mavs and the Spurs to land the number 1 and number 2 selection in the NBA draft? Do you know what the odds were?
Oh, I know.
1 in 1,000. And yet that is indeed the order of the top 2. And as a result, the top 4, the Dallas Mavericks, the San Antonio Spurs, the Philadelphia 76ers. Did you see Daryl Morey? Did you see? If you didn't see it live, you saw the still of him literally dropping his head onto the table when the Mavs and the Spurs got the first and second pick, and the 76ers are sitting there at third. Charlotte Hornets, who end up being the 4th, who probably needed that worse than anybody, are just essentially banged at this point in time. The Mavs, Spurs, and Sixers combo going 1, 2, and 3 were 1 in 10,000 as a result. So many people are alleging that because of the Luka Doncic mess, and because the NBA is trying to salvage one of their markets where Dallas is on fire, that the lottery has been rigged so that Nico Harrison can get bailed the hell out for the right to draft Cooper Flagg.
I really hate to do this. I hate to put us in a math position, but the percent I saw was 1.8%. There was a 1.8% chance that happened. If it's 1 in 1,000, that is 0.1% chance of happening.
I'm reading directly from the Athletics reporting John Hollinger last night.
Well, he is incorrect because if you look at the numbers, they had a 1.8% chance of that happening.
That is also the number I have seen universally. ESPN saying they had a 1.8% chance.
That was the total of balls that were in the lottery.
Was it a 1.8% chance just for them to land the number 1 overall pick? Because this is
to win the lottery.
Right, correct. The numbers that I am reading to you are the Mavs and the Spurs being 1 and 2.
Oh, okay. That is different.
And the Mavs, Spurs, and Sixers being 1 in a 10,000 chance.
I just wanted to make sure. As the show's resident mathematician, I had to make sure our numbers were all dotted and crossed.
You may just be, but those are two different things. That is the combination of the two that finished at the top of the lottery.
The Mavs jumped 10 spots to grab the number 1 pick, similar to the New York Islanders in the NHL draft lottery, who had a 3.5% chance. They had the 10th best chance of winning the lottery, and they jumped all the way up to number 1 overall. As we know, the Preds fell to number 5 in a worst-case scenario situation.
Yeah, because so lest you think that the thing was actually rigged, the reporting from The Athletic is that the winning team, Dallas, didn't even bother to have Nico Harrison there. He wasn't on site. Daryl Morey was there, right? He's sitting at a table. He's dropped his head onto the table in frustration because how the hell are the Dallas Mavericks going to end up with the number 1 pick in that situation after the 1.8% odds of winning, as you guys correctly pointed out? So Nico Harrison, not even there. The NBA saying, don't go. It'll look too suspicious. If you're there, if you're on site, if you are pictured being overjoyed after being dragged across the surface of the sun for the last, I don't know, when was that trade? 3 months?
Yeah, Mavericks CEO Rick Welts said, quote, "I am so happy for Mavericks fans. I only got to Dallas January 1st this year. February 1st, we broke the internet. I am just amazed at the depth of emotion and connection that the fan base has with this team. And what happened today, I can't imagine a better day for Mavs fans. It's going to be really something special. I can't wait to get back to Dallas."
This is a mess, but it also brings up the idea of draft lottery. So you watched a little bit of the NHL draft lottery, and you had no idea what the hell was going on.
No, I didn't. I had no clue what was going on.
And Doherty tried to explain it to us, and even then I was left more informed, but still more informed and confused. The draft lottery, again, it is perplexing how the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA would end up with the number 1 overall pick. But I will tell you that I like the idea of the draft lottery more than I like what the NFL does.
Oh, please.
Because
that's ridiculous. A ridiculous statement by you.
Well, it's not the most ridiculous thing I've ever said, but it is a ridiculous statement that I believe because I hate the idea of being the worst being rewarded. Even though the Titans, the team that I cover and the team that, well, I guess Lucas roots for, Bert's a Ravens fan, but the team in this market end up being the beneficiary, and as a result, my football existence is going to be way more interesting because they were the worst, and for that, they had the opportunity to write their fortunes with the number 1 overall pick and a quarterback. the parity in the NFL has been successful really almost every year except last season was a mess. I mean, how many double-digit loss teams did we have running around the NFL last year that still expect to be a particular kind of bad? But I don't love rooting for losing at the end of the year. I don't love the idea of rewarding tanking or even providing the opportunity to look like you're rewarding tanking, even though it's more prevalent, I would argue, in the NBA than it is in the NFL. But this keeps you from being rewarded for tanking or being rewarded for losing. I understand that it keeps the balance of power in the NFL the way that it does. I still would rather see them do a draft lottery.
Absurd. Absolutely absurd opinion. That is
all right.
a Hall of Fame of bad opinions by you. Like,
what would be on
like
the Mount
you said,
Rushmore?
what?
Not to re-sign Derrick Henry.
Yeah, that was before the radio show.
Still counts.
In what way does this prevent teams or fan bases of teams from wanting their teams to lose for a better opportunity for a number one
It
pick?
doesn't prevent it outright, but it does not reward it.
Okay, but it does accomplish, the NFL system accomplishes as good of a system of parity as you can have in professional sports. Right? So I don't understand why you would want to go away from that. That doesn't make any sense to me.
What, parity?
You would want...
Or the greatest amount of parity humanly possible?
Especially for you, who has been moaning incessantly about the Titans not being a good football team and, oh, woe is me having to cover this terrible football team. And then can you imagine they have a lottery and the Titans get like the number 4 pick?
I would be in hell.
I'm very shocked to hear you say this.
It would be to the detriment of me directly, yes. If God forbid, if they were to end up in the situation that the Nashville Predators did, where you have just the worst season or one of the worst seasons that you've ever had, and you end up in the worst possible lottery spot, I would go nuclear in that situation.
And also, like, did the Titans tank, or were they just a terrible football team?
No, I don't know, and I'm not accusing the Titans of tanking, but I'm saying in principle, I don't like losing being rewarded. I don't like the idea of you being the worst and then being gifted with the best possible thing, which is the right to draft a quarterback in particular.
So just the bad teams just have to be bad forever? What are you talking about?
No, the bad
how do you get out of your situation?
Be rewarded for being bad that way. I think that it's different in the NFL, right? A top 5 pick in the NFL is significantly different than it is in the NBA or the NHL. You would agree? You can still get a top 5 pick.
Definitely the NHL.
You think the NBA, it's a crapshoot basically after one.
Oh, sure.
Even at one.
It's a crapshoot, but you can still get somebody that will come in and make an instant impact, more so than the NHL or MLB for the most part.
This requires you to be better at your job rather than just being a nuclear wasteland and ending up as the dumpster fire as the worst team in football. You can still improve your fortunes in the top 5 of the draft in this sport more than any other sport. You would agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it does not prevent you from drafting a better quarterback or a franchise-changing quarterback.
So
it does not prevent you from trading. In other words,
you're still getting rewarded for losing, but a team that was better than you but lost a little bit less is just getting rewarded more than you are, even though it still doesn't make any sense. You're still getting rewarded, quote unquote, for losing.
Listen, it doesn't have to be a popular opinion. I'm not saying that it is or anything like that.
I think this is you trying to do like an I know everybody's going to disagree with this thing. Like, I don't think you believe this at all. The NFL draft is perfect the way it is.
Perfect the way it is?
Do not mess with the NFL draft.
Perfect the way it is nonsense.
What would you change about the NFL draft?
I would change it to a lottery.
The lottery, because I don't believe that you believe that. So what would you actually change?
I would change that it travels around every year. I would change...
No. I'm talking about the system. The system on how the draft is done.
I don't like this thing that they're doing now with...
the rotating...
With the rotating at the top of it. I don't like that.
That's just...
It's been like that, though.
I know, which, again, asking me things that I change, I'd get rid of that.
But that is...
So that is, for reference, like the Titans did not pick number 1 in the second round, number 1 in the third round, because the teams at the very top of the draft, if they had the same record, then you rotate every top pick of every round except the number 1 pick. Okay, so you think the Titans should have, if you're going to have them pick number 1 in the first round, then pick number 1 in the second, pick number 1 in the third. I agree. So you think the Titans should have been rewarded with the number 1 pick in every round.
Based on the current construct your argument of what they have, yes, I understand what you're saying. I would rather see the draft lottery. That's what it is.
I don't even believe you. It's such a bad opinion that I don't believe you have that opinion.
All right, to separate you star-crossed lovers, I have
I
assembled.
didn't believe the Derrick Henry thing either. Make sure you tell everybody that.
I have assembled a list of things that are more likely to happen than the Mavs getting the number 1 overall pick. Are you guys ready?
I would love this.
Number 1, getting pooped on by a bird. There is a 1% chance daily that you are pooped on by a bird.
What about your car in the case of Don Davenport?
I feel like that is much higher.
Your car is different. What happened to Dawn, I don't think I've ever seen in my life.
What's the percentage chance of that?
Like you got a better chance of like a bear getting in your car and ransacking it for food or snacks or something like that than you do what the hell it is that happened to Dawn, where you leave your window just slightly cracked, a bird gets in there and just defecates on every square inch of your interior.
Number 2, getting killed by a cow. More Americans are killed every year by cows than by sharks. 20 cow-related deaths every year in the U.S.
Now, how does one get killed by a cow?
Well,
Eating
it
some bad
could be
beef?
a vehicular accident. It could be.
Now, wait, is it a cow or is it like a bull? Because the bull thing makes infinitely more sense to
I
me.
would describe it as a bovine incident.
Okay, so if it's a bovine incident, then you're getting gored to death by a rodeo cow or a bull or something
Sure,
like that.
that could also happen.
Running with the bulls in Spain.
This is in America. Number 3, a pro golfer making a hole-in-one. You may think this is rare, but odds are 3% per round in the pros that a golfer would hit a hole-in-one.
That adds up.
Getting injured by a toilet.
Now, how would that work?
How would you even, what do you like, slip and fall and hit your head on the toilet?
There's a 2% chance across a lifetime that Americans would be hurt on toilets. 40,000 Americans go to the ER every year for toilet-related injuries.
Well, is that...
Sometimes, I don't know, sometimes
what is that, the proximity of like people who show up in the ER with things shoved up their butts that they're not supposed to have?
Well, maybe you just fall in. People leave the toilet seat up and you just fall in.
See, that's what happens to me. Cheyenne leaves the seat up, I sit down, and then I get trapped.
You're the one in the relationship that has to yell at her
Cheyenne
about
leaves
leaving
the seat up?
Well, she'll pick it back up. Yeah, it goes up
Just to
every
spite
time.
you?
Yes, every time. The amount of time that
I love her for that so much.
The amount of times that my jewels have been kissed by the sweet, pristine toilet bowl water is too many. Number 5, your luggage getting lost at the airport.
I'm sure nothing about your toilet is sweet or pristine.
She puts that glue liquid in the top, so it's blue all the time. Roughly 2% don't make it to baggage claim. You trust
I thought it would
Delta.
have been higher.
I also thought it would have been higher, but not according to the internet. Those 5 things are more likely to happen than the Mavs getting the number 1 overall pick.
What a mess. All right, coming up next, we'll get into some Titans rookie minicamp stuff. Brian Callahan talking about Xavier Restrepo and his role within the offense, and also how they are going to work to incorporate things that Cam Ward does well with this offense. You'll hear from the head coach coming up next. Murfreesboro golfers, it's time to say goodbye to pain and hello to a better game with Burrow Chiropractic's revolutionary STEM wave therapy. STEM wave therapy is non-invasive, cutting edge, and designed to help golfers get back on the course pain-free. And it's not just for golfers, as a matter of fact. If you've been dealing with damaged tissues and issues regarding your body, for example, I was having a hard time with my right shoulder doing push-ups, doing push presses, things like that, and underwent STEM wave therapy treatment at Burrow Chiropractic. And they got me back to 100% in no time at all. No muss, no fuss. Their expert team is dedicated to offering personalized care that caters to each individual's unique needs. STEM wave therapy is perfect for treating that chronic pain, inflammation, and even old injuries. Plus, Burrow Chiropractic is proud to be the official chiropractic provider for Middle Tennessee football, ensuring their athletes stay in peak condition. You can call them today at 615-410-7643. That's 615-410-7643, or check out their website at burrowchirotn.com. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045 is the number. Best hot chicken in the world. Had it yesterday for lunch, as a matter of fact, after I got home. Got it delivered. Did it through the Hattie B's app. Grilled chicken tenders, collard greens, some lemonade. Delightful. Perfect anytime. Lunch right around the corner. Make sure you think about Hattie B's, the best option. We'll get to Brian Callahan talking about Cam Ward and the installation of the offense around him, as well as Xavier Restrepo here in just a second. Got a few phone calls to take before we do. 615-737-1045 is how you do that. John in Murfreesboro is next. Hey, John.
What's up, everybody? So I've got an oh-no for you. So Manchester United is going to play Tottenham Hotspur for the Europa League Championship, and the winner gets to play in the Champions League. That's not the oh-no. The oh-no is the fact that Manchester United is 16th in the Premier League and Spurs are 17th in the Premier League, and even if Manchester United wins, they may still not be able to play in the Champions League next year due to rules regarding financial fair play.
It is a situation for sure that those teams are floundering as much as they are in the Premier League table, but have made it all the way to the final of Europa League. So, yeah, good submission by John.
All right, very good. Eric is next.
Hey, Buck, it's been a while since I talked to you, but here's the thing on the whole draft lottery process and everything. I understand, I get your point and everything about all this, but here's the thing. I guarantee you, if the Philadelphia 76ers had won the number one pick, everybody would have been all over that, been upset, because this is the team that trusts the process. I'm a big Philadelphia 76ers fan myself. Have been since the days of Dr. J. But one of the things also that is driving me nuts is I'm a fan of teams that have crazy owners. Because I'm a fan of the 76ers. I had Harold Katz, who traded Moses Malone to the Bullets at the time, Washington, for Jeff Rulin, who could never stay healthy. I've got Daryl Morey, who's a crazy general manager now. I grew up, and there's still a part of me loves the Cowboys, and I have insane Jerry Jones, who now is the modern-day Al Davis. And lastly, I'm a fan of the Reds, who had Marge shot the whole dog shot in that crazy situation. Yeah. And I've got an owner now who got into it with the fans last year, had a game where he had Dollar Dog and Beer Night, who ran out of hot dogs and beer in the fourth inning, and fired the manager with a week left to go in the season. I mean, it's just talk to me about frustrated owners. It's just frustrating as a fan, be a fan of those teams who have just ridiculous, crazy owners. But I get your point on the whole draft lottery process. Guys, y'all take care and we'll talk again soon.
Always good to hear from you, Eric. Don't let it be so long next time. So, there is no draft lottery in the NFL. So, by nature of being the worst team in football, you get the number one pick. That number one pick, Cam Ward, had his rookie minicamp this weekend. And there's a couple of different things. Where do you want to start? You want to start with Cam? You want to start with Xavier Restrepo? How do you want to do this today?
Xavier Restrepo into Cam.
Okay. So, Cam Ward is the highlight of rookie minicamp, but Xavier Restrepo was arguably
1B?
I think so. I had somebody at the gym this morning asked me about Femi Oladejo. Like, I think he's the real deal. He might be the truth. I'm like, let the guy play, let the guy play an NFL game.
He's a great, he looks the part, and he's a great vibes guy.
Sure.
And then people gravitate towards that.
And I fault fans none at all for that, but, let's wait a minute before we call him the truth. I know the guy was being a bit tongue-in-cheek this morning, but that's neither here nor there. Though Femi was fun to watch at practice. Even though they don't have pads on yet, they're working through the technical side of things. Callahan emphasized that this was it's like your freshman orientation at college, right? We're here to learn technique. We're here to learn schedules. We're here to learn coursework, all these different things, and then we'll get into the actual competition side of it. So as they're working through the technical things, I would say that Xavier Restrepo was probably 1B, and rightfully so. Now, I was very disappointed, and I expressed that disappointment to Titans PR about not being able to talk to any of the UDFAs, particularly Xavier, because fans want to know about him. And that's all well and good. At some point, we'll talk to Xavier Restrepo, but would have liked to have done it at rookie minicamp. So instead, we asked Callahan and Cam Ward about Xavier Restrepo. Now, you heard from Cam Ward yesterday on the show about Xavier Restrepo and how he advocated for him in every part of the process. But the thing that I wanted to know from Brian Callahan is what he added, what Xavier Restrepo added specifically to their wide receiver room. This was the head coach on Saturday.
Xavier's been a really productive college player. I mean, you look at all the names of receivers that have played at the University of Miami, and he's at the top, which is impressive. He might not necessarily be the biggest or the fastest player that's probably ever come out of Miami, but he's been incredibly productive, and he's found ways to play football the right way. So he'll start out as a slot player for us, and he'll have every chance to compete just like everybody else will. But you look at his production and what he's done as a football player, and he puts himself in pretty good position to be competitive. And even though he didn't run the fastest time in the world, I'm excited to see what he can do.
So the 40 time wasn't that big a deal for you guys?
I mean, it all matters. Yeah, I mean, it matters. But I think you see the football player and you see the speed that he plays with when he plays. I wouldn't have thought that would have been the time that he ran. But that's how you go from a potential draft pick to being an undrafted free agent at the end of the day, and he's got a lot to prove, and I'm excited to see him do it.
Scouting Cam, did you end up seeing a lot more of him than maybe you would have?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I watched a lot of tape on Cam, and you see all the plays that Xavier made over his career, particularly this past year. All the players on that offense, we had a little bit more familiarity with just because of the nature of how much film you watch when you're evaluating a quarterback. And then you got a chance to be exposed to him at the pro day, and then again he was there for the private as well. So those guys, Arroyo, the tight end, and a couple of those other guys that have signed other places, we had pretty good familiarity with those players.
With DK, do you start him at one position and get him to try to learn one spot and then move him around a little bit, or do you give him everything at once? How is it?
You see what he can handle, and I think he's an incredibly smart player. So that part, we'll see as he takes information how well he can take it, take to the field, know what to do. But he's got the ability to play, all over the formation, which is good. We'll start him at one spot to make it easy for him. We won't put too much on him too fast. As he gets comfortable and as he understands more, certainly has the ability to move around.
So that's mostly there on Xavier Restrepo, and then a follow-up from John Glennon about Chimere Dike, one of the fourth round picks that the Titans added at wide receiver. And I talked to you guys on Monday about the level of production, or just the level of comfort that the two of them, Cam Ward and Xavier Restrepo, have, how it was basically training wheels for Cam. I'm sure Cam would have been a natural out there anyway, would have been comfortable and confident, as he seems to be in everything that he does. But I think that the degree of difficulty is significantly less than when you've got a guy that you've already had 1,001 reps with, on top of helping to break records at Miami, and both being All-America status last year at Miami in their one season together. Hugely productive, and of course Restrepo productive even prior to Cam Ward's arrival there. So I wanted to make sure that I asked a follow-up, Lucas, about the 40, because it's a pretty big gulf for a guy like Restrepo to, even if it's the highest possible place he could have been drafted, to be talked about as a potential day two guy, to fall completely out of the draft, right? That's a pretty crazy drop. And we understand that there are multiple reasons for that. He's not a physically imposing player. He does not have the traits that the physical gifts that a lot of these prototypical wide receivers in the NFL do. But it doesn't matter, because he's hugely productive. And we had the conversation yesterday about, what do you value more? Do you value upside and potential over proven production? Because Xavier Restrepo is proven production.
So who is the upside and potential wide receiver pick of this draft?
Io Manor. Are you talking about just the Titans?
Yeah, just for the Titans. Io Manor over DK? Because Io Manor was an incredibly productive player in his 2 years at Stanford.
And DK wasn't as productive in the last season at Florida, but I do think that there's something to be attributed to the quarterback change there.
Yeah, but for me, it is DK, because you're thinking about the upside of the speed, a few other areas of his game he needs to develop. Calling him a one-trick pony feels harsh, but top of the fourth round felt higher than what most projected for Chimere Dike, right? And then Io Manor, it was like, okay, you kind of made up for.
Well, it was interesting because DK going when he did, with a lot of the other, and again, Royals is the example. Jalen Royals is the example that comes up the most, who ends up going to the Chiefs, and he'll probably be more successful there just by nature of him landing with Patrick Mahomes, right? So I get that from your perspective, because I think if you'd have flip-flopped them, if Iamander would have gone first and DK would have gone second as those three fourth-round picks, right? Gunnar Helm in the middle of them as well, that Titans fans probably would have been okay with it. They've probably seen Chimere DK just because he played in the SEC more than they've seen Iamander, but Iamander seemed to be the player that more draftniks were talking about. Robert, would you say that's accurate?
Sure.
615-737-1045 is the number. Before we talk about Cam Ward, is there anything else you need to tell the audience?
Yes, I have. I must tell the audience about Beer Fest on Saturday at Game Terminal, 4th annual Beer Fest. You might hear that and think, oh, it's just a beer festival, but it's so much more. Beer, cider, alcohol tastings, games, fun, excitement. Buy your tickets now, $40 online, $50 at the door. You can buy them online at 1045thezone.com. Beer tastings, a gift bag, and swag, all included with each purchase, and portion of proceeds goes to Nashville Humane Association. Game Terminal is a great place, an incredible arcade bar with an 8,000-square-foot back patio. We'll enjoy sunshine, play some games, and have a great time. Robert and I will be out there with a few other friends, so go to 1045thezone.com for tickets this Saturday, 2 to 6 p.m.
Are you doing soccer after that?
I am.
Sounds exhausting.
Yes. No, I unfortunately will not be partaking in the various different tastings, but I will be there having a good time.
Okay. I always assumed because it was soccer, you were able to call the games drunk.
They don't even sell alcohol in the stands in European soccer games because the crowd gets too rowdy.
Yeah, it could be problematic.
Why would you assume that the announcers get to be drunk when the fans can't even partake in arena?
I always assumed that's where this clip came from.
No, that, of course, is his sexual escapades while wearing AirPods. He's so uncomfortable.
Now you have to sit in it.
So, how many years ago? That was a good callback. All right, Cam Ward and the installation of the offense. So, we discussed it briefly yesterday, the conversation that we had with Callahan at the Combine about not prioritizing scheme over talent. You're going to make the scheme work for the talent that you have, especially if the talent is great enough that you have to make these adjustments. And that's something that Cam Ward has also talked about with Brian Callahan as they work to incorporate more of what Miami did well, or more of what Cam did well at Miami, into the current construct of the Titans offense. Doesn't mean you toss out the entire offense just for the sake of Cam Ward, but how much more comfortable can you make Cam Ward with plays and concepts that he knows he can execute at a high level and that will work based on what you have. So let's hear from Brian Callahan on the install process for Cam Ward, if we could, Robert, at your convenience.
So far, so good. Starting from square one, just like you do with all young players. And really, we start over every year anyway. You never take for granted the steps you have to take, and you start over. You teach the offense from square one again. You teach how to get in the huddle, the cadence, and all the basics from start to finish, and you just restart that process every year. And that's how we approach this. This is the beginning installs for those guys. It's the beginning of the offensive instruction for Cam, and how we operate in the meeting rooms, how we operate in the unit install, how we operate on the field are all part of this process for this weekend. So so far so good, but yeah, we start from square one and go and build from there.
So that's Brian Callahan speaking on Saturday about the installation process for Cam Ward. And I feel like you probably almost have to do that for the coaches, too, to start from square one, to just kind of refresh everything that you've got and not just let these things rot in the playbook. And, it's for the purposes of teaching. Just like you get a new syllabus at the start of a school year, right? You get everything that you need to know, or you get everything that you're going to learn, and you work your way through that, even if it's something that you've done a million times over. And for Cam, nobody's concerned about him picking these things up. It's just a question of how much better, how much more refined can he get with the things that they're going to add to his game versus what he already brings to the table. There's nothing to me that would keep this guy from hitting the ground running in week one. I know that Levis is now officially in the building with the rest of the vets so that there is the guys of competition.
Yeah, it is odd seeing. It's like, oh yeah, Levis he's still here.
Well, they put out a video of them working out yesterday. The players, rookies and vets, working out together yesterday. It was a Cam Ward clip and a Will Levis clip.
Yeah.
And just the recoil that you saw Titans fans have after the first Cam Ward clip to Will Levis picking his nose in the background. You just go, he's still here?
They've been so
I thought he was gone.
engrossed in the Cam Ward hype that, they forgot. Like, no, he's still on the roster.
Yeah, he sure is, until he's not. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in.
Trey Hendrickson showed up to voluntary activity with the Bengals, and he is saying things to reporters. He's saying a lot of things about his current contract situation.
Is that worth talking about coming up next?
100%.
And as well as the NFL widening their international presence. We can get into both of those things on Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. All right, so Lucas told us that Trey Hendrickson has shown up to voluntary work for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, we discussed yesterday Trey Hendrickson putting out a statement to Adam Schefter on the communication or lack thereof between him and the Cincinnati Bengals. Excellent pass rusher for Cincy. We even alleged a little bit that wouldn't it be interesting if the Titans were able to get into the Trey Hendrickson business? Yes, you would have to pay him on the back end of a trade as he has 1 year left on his deal, but he would immediately be the best pass rusher on your team. And this team, while they have added Draymond Jones as who projects as absolutely a starter, and I don't know, is Arden Key in danger of losing his job to Femi Oladejo? I would have to see Femi Oladejo actually go through a training camp of being just an edge guy before we, assume that he's going to take Arden Key's job.
I mean, that's just the state of things, though, with the pass rush. It's those three, and hopefully Jalen Harrell can make the team, right? But you can't count on that.
Lorenzo Carter is
just there.
I'm fine with Lorenzo Carter being Jalen Harrell. If Jalen Harrell is not better than Lorenzo Carter, then you can move on from Jalen Harrell and call it done.
So Hendrickson spent about 25 minutes with Cincinnati media. He said that
25 minutes?
Yeah, that's what Paul Dehner Jr. of The Athletic said. Hendrickson stated that Zach Taylor texted him telling him he would be fined if he didn't show up to minicamp activities. Showed up, he's not practicing, he's in street clothes.
Yeah.
But Trey Hendrickson, to reporters, this quote is from Ari Myrov. There is some audio floating out there, but the wind's blowing and there's construction. So the quote from Hendrickson, if I sat here with 4 sacks, they would want a pay cut and some money back. I'm not going to apologize for the rates being paid to defensive ends in the National Football League. He also admitted that things have gotten personal between he and the organization. Paul Dehner Jr.
Yeah, because they're saying dumb things like he should just be happy with the amount of money we offered him.
Yeah.
Idiots.
Paul Dehner Jr. added that Trey Hendrickson had a lot to say and didn't hold back. The word disappointed was used often. He said his statements have been provoked by the team. And when asked explicitly if he would play on the current deal, he said no.
Go get him. I'm so in favor of scooping this dude out from under Cincinnati.
What's it cost?
We talked about the Max Crosby deal yesterday. What is it? 3 years?
Talking about a trade.
Oh.
You got to trade for Trey Hendrickson.
Yes.
This Titans regime.
What did Pickens just go for? Pickens go for a third?
Yeah. This Titans regime, and there was a pick swap involved too. This regime doesn't feel like it's in the business of shipping off potential top 100 picks for aging players.
Sure.
Who Trey Hendrickson is 30 years old. I believe he'll be 31 in week 1.
They're also more thorough in their planning and their preparation for moves like this.
Oh, he'll turn 31 towards the end of the season in December.
And I would say I would not give up more than a fourth. Fourth would probably be the premium price.
Right.
Because you are then paying him on the backside of that deal. That's as high as I would be willing to go.
Is there a contender out there that could really use a Trey Hendrickson?
Oh, you could always use a Trey Hendrickson.
That could give up more than a fourth.
Give up more than a fourth? For a 31-year-old. But again, the contenders are probably more cash-strapped than a team like the Titans is a basement dweller. See, the problem with moves like this is, it's an interesting look at how to build for your competitive cycle. Let's just take a recent example because it's got local ties. Harold Landry. The deal that Harold Landry got from New England. Now, there's reasons that Harold Landry specifically got that deal from New England that are beyond just what he is as a football player. You're trying to set a culture, set a tone under a new head coach. Obviously, Mike Vrabel knows Harold Landry very well. But Harold Landry, when do you expect the Patriots to be meaningfully competitive in the AFC East?
Oh,
this year?
Years.
Probably not this year.
No.
Maybe not even next year, but they've got a quarterback, so who's to say? We'll see what happens with Drake May.
They think they have a quarterback.
They think they have a quarterback. The Titans thought they had a quarterback last year.
Exactly.
Sure, for sure. But, okay, so let's say 2 more seasons before the New England Patriots are operating at a high enough level where they are to be feared in their division. How old is Harold Landry going to be in 2 years?
How old is Harold Landry? Younger.
Harold's
probably still younger than Trey Hendrickson.
Harold's 29.
He's 28.
Harold's 28.
He'll be 29 in a month.
Okay, so Harold will be 31 by the time the Patriots are meaningfully competitive, and they're still paying money out on that deal, which is a tough scene to be in, right? Because you don't want Harold Landry at 31 with a big old price tag. When your team is operating at a high level, you'd rather have a younger player that can come in and help you as you build organically around your quarterback. And they've got cash for days, so maybe it's not the end of the world. But Harold is a good example of that. The Titans are in a similar situation, right? Where the Titans, we could probably, if Cam hits, and there's no telling, we'll find out throughout the course of this year and into the next. But let's just say 3 more seasons, including this one, before the Titans are operating at a reasonably high level, and you've got 33, 34-year-old Trey Hendrickson on your roster. Is it worth that as you build your roster up? That's the kind of cost-benefit analysis.
Yeah. By the time you can be meaningfully competitive, you're not getting the juice from Trey Hendrickson that you would be getting theoretically this year for what he's done, leading the league in sacks each of the last 2 years.
Right.
So that's what you have to weigh. What is that value of Trey Hendrickson, who Brian Callahan, you figure would know and be, I mean, I don't know how much Callahan wouldn't have really worked with Hendrickson that much. I don't know what the relationship is like.
I mean, he was the head coach last year, and you got defensive players saying we'd like the head coach to have more involvement.
Right, and when he was the offensive coordinator in Cincinnati, I don't know.
Probably not a ton.
Yeah, I don't know how personal his relationship is.
Now they're going against him every week or every day at practice, right?
Yeah, true.
So
how much value do you put on that if you're Brian Callahan? Because it would be kind of antithetical to what the Titans' overall approach in building this thing is.
Well, that's why those are two different conversations, because what's more important for Brian Callahan this year? Winning games. What's more important for Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker? Building up to the point where you got a legit shot at this thing. Not necessarily. I mean, they want to win games. But, like, people took issue with Vrabel. Like, what I saw Vrabel do with Harold Landry is the thing I've seen Mike Vrabel do a million times over, is that they just want to win games, right? They just want to be competitive, even if it's not the best thing to do, with foresight as you try to ramp up to that point, right? Just winning games for the sake of winning games does not ultimately accomplish your goal. So there's cost-benefit analysis to be done there. The cost is probably not worth the benefit of Trey Hendrickson right now for a team like the Titans in this specific season.
Yeah, like I hear what you're saying. Brian Callahan wants to win games now. So if you ask Brian Callahan, yes, go get Trey Hendrickson, ship whatever you need. But, like, how many games, how many wins is Trey Hendrickson worth?
That's a good question.
Theoretically, like what? You could win, like,
Myles Garrett was worth 3.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like 1 or 2 max. So if you're Brian Callahan, if you win 6 games this year and Cam Ward, like, you've got something in Cam Ward, Brian Callahan will not be fired. If you double your win total and you feel like you've got something in this rookie quarterback. So if you're Brian Callahan, there's also...
Listen, I don't want to make anything definitive based on the way that this organization has operated the last couple of years, but I get it.
But, like, right, so if you think about it, like, all right, let's just say 6 wins and promise at the quarterback position and keep that draft pick that you would ship off for Trey Hendrickson, or 7, maybe 8 wins with Trey Hendrickson, and you're short a 3rd rounder or whatever it would cost.
But that, I mean, in this division, Lucas, that could be a wild card. You know, they're in the worst division of football. So the context for all of this matters.
But I think that they're very long-term thinking with this build.
Yeah. No, they absolutely are long-term thinking. Again, and they keep telling us that the ownership group has bought in on that, but the ownership group was ready, steady, Vrabel in November and then fired him in January. So we'll see. All right. There's also the international schedule that came out earlier today. The Titans obviously will not be going abroad this time around. Minnesota has 2 international games in back-to-back weeks. Jacksonville does that as well, but that's different for the Vikings being the road game. And the international appeal of these games is something that we talked about to open the show, the actual value of it. The value is for the league. The value is for the monetary gain that they can have by expanding their footprint when it comes to rights negotiations, both domestically and internationally. Is there a game that you wish was kept stateside that is being shipped internationally? Because it would have been Pittsburgh, Minnesota if Aaron Rodgers was the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. I don't know if I care to see the Pittsburgh Steelers play at all this year based on their current quarterback construct without Aaron Rodgers in the room. But there's a couple of interesting international games here that I'm sure people... I'm sure their fan bases would have liked to see those games stay home as opposed to shipped off to London, Madrid, or Dublin.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't mind that the Jags and Colts lose an actual home game to go have to play a fake home game in London. The Jags are in London.
Who's the home team, though?
Jags. And London, week 7, Jags, quote-unquote, host the Rams.
Isn't that so? Would that streak continue with how the Colts have been utterly useless in Jacksonville, right? Isn't that their whole it's like the second most embarrassing streak
Well, the Colts aren't going I don't understand what the Colts play the Falcons in Berlin.
Right.
The Jags play the Rams in London.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They're not playing
I thought
each
you
other.
said it was
No,
an AFC
sorry.
South game.
They both, quote unquote, host games in Europe this year. Jags in London, week 7 against the Rams. Colts in Berlin, week 10 against the Falcons.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join the conversation at any point.
Quickly, as we talk about Trey Hendrickson and the idea of poking around on a trade, when you were out last week, the Jadeveon Clowney news broke.
Titans legend.
Being released. So that sparked a conversation, obviously.
What, bringing him back?
Clowney back to Tennessee?
No.
At a desperate position of need?
No.
That was my instant reaction, too. But then you kind of sit back and you realize, like, oh, he's actually been, like...
Yeah, he's been good since he left here.
Productive at every stop since he left the Titans.
Robert, the best year of his career was with the Ravens, and right after he left Tennessee, right?
He was a cleanup specialist.
And, I mean, hell, you could use Harold Landry was also regarded as a cleanup specialist. I think that's where the vast majority of Harold's sacks came from.
And then I'm like, how old is Clowney at this point? 34? He's 32, and he'll be 32 all season. So that was also my instant reaction, like, no thanks. But then I didn't realize the scope of how good he's been since his dreadful year in Tennessee. He's had 9 sack seasons multiple times.
Inevitably, he'll come back here. He'll be miserable. He'll play 8 games. His knee stuff will pop up, and that'll be another. I mean, Amy's probably still seething over the $25 million she lit on fire for him and Beasley that year. What a bad season for them. What a bad personnel acquisition season that was for them in 2020. Anyway, coming up next, Cam Ward's mechanics. What are they working on? What are they trying to improve? We'll get into that. And Brian Callahan talking about veterans competing with rookies for job security. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. It's a common frustration for dudes, especially as they get older. As your body starts to change, you feel tired, you're sluggish, and just generally not like yourself, and you assume it's just a part of the aging process. But it doesn't have to be that way because of the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Low energy and performance issues aren't inevitable, and solutions exist. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is there to give you those solutions, and the difference with them is there's no guesswork and no gimmicks, just real science and effective treatments. Generic online pills are overpriced and ineffective. You got to be aware, or beware rather, of those online fixes. You will get a personalized treatment plan from the Tennessee Men's Clinic with multiple urologists and providers tailoring solutions specifically to your body and to your goals. It's affordable and accessible. The consultation, which includes blood work, will give you the results before you leave. So act now. Don't procrastinate. Call them at 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090, or visit them online at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com today.
It is 12 o'clock. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. The full international slate was revealed for the 2025 NFL season. The first ever NFL game in Madrid will be between the Commanders and Dolphins in Week 11. The Vikings will have to play back-to-back weeks in Europe, one in Dublin, Week 4 against the Steelers, and then Week 5 in London against the Browns. The Titans do not have an international game in 2025. The NFL's full schedule release will be tomorrow. NBA playoffs tonight. It is Game 5 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. Pacers and Cavs in Cleveland at 6 p.m. The Pacers have a 3-1 lead. And in the West, the Thunder and Nuggets tip off at 8:30 in Oklahoma City. That series is tied at 2. The NBA draft lottery was held Monday. The Dallas Mavericks have the number 1 overall pick. Stanley Cup playoff action tonight. The Jets are at the Stars. Western Conference second round, and the Stars lead it 2-1. Puck drop is at 7 p.m. College baseball happening tonight. Tennessee looks to bounce back from their series loss against Vanderbilt as they host Belmont in Knoxville. First pitch coming up at 4 p.m. And the kickoff time for Tennessee's Week 1 matchup against Syracuse in Atlanta on August 30th at Mercedes-Benz Stadium has been announced. It is officially 11 a.m. Central Time. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Among the many questions that we have about Cam Ward and the Titans are, all right, how much better can he get? And how is Brian Callahan and Bo Hardigree, the quarterback's coach there, going to get him to that point? Are there any dramatic changes that need to be made? Or is it going to be pretty turnkey for a player who's got a lot of experience, a lot of ability, and just needs to find ways to make it work with a collection of new teammates and new coaches? Welcome back to the show. We're happy to have you. The final hour is upon us. Robert, Lucas, and me with you until 1. We'll turn things over to Blaine and Zach after that. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to get involved there. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is where you can go to live stream the show and make your guesses for what SpongeBob personalities or what SpongeBob characters' zone personalities would be, as was a whole show basically for the first hour of the show. I don't know how much resolution we got back there.
Upset that we didn't put that up as a poll.
You two are fully in control of that.
But it comes from your Twitter.
Again, the bit is just tired.
I'm confused on this.
Like the many poll suggestions that Lucas has, and I say, "Are you going to put that up as a poll?" And he says, "No, probably not." Okay,
it doesn't make any sense. I don't even have
entirely under
access to your account.
Your control. I am not going to sit here and pretend with you that I am any kind of quarterback mechanics expert. Not that you needed to know that from me, but I am curious in talking to a lot of people, a lot of coaches, a lot of people that break down film and mechanics for a living, whether or not any dramatic changes are going to need to be made to Cam Ward's mechanics. That is something that was asked of Brian Callahan on Saturday, and this is what the head coach had to say about working with his new rookie.
No, I think all upper body mechanics, just from a general, upper body mechanics are hard to mess around with. Those guys have done so many reps of those, it's hard to change that. I think you can change lower body mechanics, though, footwork, things of that nature. Some of the things we worked on, just maybe some footwork, under center stance stuff, very simple things that are easy to adjust. But for the most part, I see no issues with the arm angles and how he throws the football. And if there is, a lot of it usually still goes back to their body positioning and their lower body work. So those are the things we pay attention to. And if we can offer a tweak or a change, then we will. But I would say nothing's usually all that dramatic at this point. They get to this level, they've done it one way for a long time.
So nothing dramatic, right? And the logic makes sense. If the quarterback has an established throwing motion, maybe it doesn't make sense to mess with the upper body portion of that mechanics. But you could always be better with your footwork. You could always get your eyes more married to your feet in the way that you operate. If there are inconsistencies with your accuracy, that's a better way to resolve it than trying to screw with the way that Cam Ward sidearms the ball from time to time. It's not like Rivers-esque to watch him, but it does have a bit of a callback, and he absolutely zips it out of there with the way that he throws it. Now, Levis did it too with as compact a throwing motion as I can remember seeing. I can't. Marcus's was so much more elongated when you watched Mariota out there at practice. And like I said, to each their own. I'm sure they've come up in different ways, working under different coaching staffs and training in different ways that have led them to be successful, or, as successful as any of those players were, to get to the pros, successful enough to get drafted in the NFL. But for Cam Ward, and for really any quarterback, isn't it just about the footwork first and foremost? How they maneuver the pocket, how they manage the situation, how they keep their eyes downfield while making sure that they're still hitting their drops successfully and keeping things on time and on rhythm. And what is the thing that Alec Ironmaner told us on Saturday about Cam Ward?
Yeah, it's always going to be on time.
Always. He's on time every time.
I mean, Cam Ward, a lot of when you talk about the arm angles, throwing motion, it's a lot of the stuff that separates him, right, and makes him kind of unique, kind of like it was for Mahomes coming out. And Andy Reid and the Chiefs walked such a perfect line of letting Mahomes be who he was within the structure of the Chiefs offense. So if the Titans can walk that line, remains to be seen, but that's how I heard that question in terms of his arm angles. And are you trying to tweak any of that? Is there any of that could be a little bit counterproductive in the NFL? And Brian Callahan is saying, no, if that's what makes Cam Ward, we're not going to mess with that stuff.
So the thing about Cam Ward, what was the conversation like around the two quarterbacks who were considered the two top quarterbacks for the vast majority of the time, Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, given that the Titans had the number 1 overall pick?
Yeah, basically Shedeur can operate within the structure of an offense, timing, accuracy, but no flashy traits, nothing that jumps off the page. And Cam had more of those number 1 overall pick traits in terms of the athleticism in spades, more of a playmaker that can get out and make things happen as opposed to Shedeur Sanders.
Right. But when you talk to Brian Callahan about it, he'll tell you, no, he absolutely has the ability to play on time and in rhythm. And then you're hearing Alec Ironmaner say something like, well, he's on time every time. So it's just a matter of getting him into the routines and the rhythms as Brian Callahan envisions the quarterback. And because the install, part 1 and part 2, is available via audio now, where you have Brian Callahan breaking down Cam Ward plays with Greg Cosell, and a really good, in fact, Bert, it may be worth saving for later in the week to pull that audio. You were back behind the scenes dressed as a grandma on your moo-moo, preparing to ask Brian Callahan a question I never gave you the opportunity to ask. So you did not hear him make these Cam Ward, Matt Stafford comparisons?
Maybe this is something we could discuss next week.
Yeah, that sounds like a good maybe next Tuesday topic.
Oh, the way the two of you are just going to mail it in. You may as well just play the install live for a day.
Oh, what a fantastic idea!
Now that's I'm not being sarcastic. That's a good idea.
It would honestly be better than what we're doing right now.
It would. Hear the coach and Greg Cosell break it down.
Just get the hell. The three of us get the hell out of here.
Did you guys cuss at all? Did you cuss any bad words? No words.
I didn't.
You know, Cosell cusses like a sailor.
Yeah, Greg. No, famously a potty mouth, Greg Cosell. But it is an interesting thing to hear him talk about. If you want to go check out the audio version of the podcast, it's my understanding the video version of the podcast will be done at some point this week. I know they're working diligently. Justin is hard at work on that.
It makes it sound like a plane is getting ready for takeoff and they're like working on the engine or something. And there's
people
up in the air
with as it took them to get the damn file. All right, they've made it seem like they're operating on a jet.
It's like somebody's down there just slamming a hammer on something.
I'm not mad at Justin. Justin got the thing when he got the thing. Okay,
working diligently.
Somebody, please, God, just do the video so people stop tweeting me about it. Anyway, Brian Callahan's comparison and or at least the analysis that he used talking about Matt Stafford in comparison to Cam Ward, I think is excellent. And that is something that you can get exclusively on that podcast. 615-737-1045 is the number. If you want to jump in, we'd be happy to have you. How about Josh in Nashville next?
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Big Titans fan here since Steve McNair days. I mean, it's crazy. This is 97. Please don't change Cam Ward's throwing angle. We have Vince Young, caused him issues. Just please let him do what he did just to be great all these years. Just please don't change it. All right, thank you, guys.
I think you literally just said in that clip he wasn't.
And they're not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm glad we got that accomplished. Things that we want Cam Ward to work on, or things that Cam Ward does need to work on, though, I think the list is pretty short, right? It's just, how are you going to manage the situation as the potential future of the franchise? We would like to see him earn it first and foremost, and he is going to be the starting quarterback by nature of them drafting him number 1 overall, and the Will Levis thing, we'll see how it plays out. That is something that you guys can talk about while I'm gone, is whether Will Levis is capable of being a backup quarterback to a reasonable enough degree that you're comfortable getting rid of. I mean, Tim Boyle should be an ancillary figure in all this, but Brandon Allen, right?
Justice for Boyle.
What do you mean justice for Boyle?
Being dismissed so flippantly by you.
I'm sorry. Have you seen him play professional football?
Yeah.
Have you seen him play collegiate football?
No, because who did he play for? Like EKU? No disrespect to EKU.
Yeah, well, I will tell you that he, based on what you have heard about him, is that he is a cult of personality type of guy as opposed to what he brings on the football
locker room guy.
Okay, well, you've got, theoretically, you should have enough of those that you don't need Tim Boyle wandering around, but that's fine if that's how they want to do it.
And Camp Arm.
Cam Ward, as a developmental player, it's really more about the off-the-field stuff than it is the on-the-field stuff, right? As far as what Titans fans, I mean, of course, Titans fans are looking for him to be hugely successful on the field, to be the best version of himself. But I'm talking about all the other ancillary stuff that comes along with being face of the franchise quarterback. Just how you engender or endear yourself to that locker room, how you take the coaching, how you make the adjustments, how you learn from your mistakes. Beyond that, you could say that, I suppose, of any player, but that's just kind of what it is right now. And we'll see how quickly he goes about checking those boxes. All right, coming up next, we are going to get into Callahan on mixing the veterans with the rookies now and making sure that everybody's aware of how open the competition now officially becomes, that the two are in the mix. We will hear from the head coach coming up next. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. On May 13th?
I miss Christmas.
Yeah, but most people do that in July, not on May 13th, where you just forget what was in there.
I'm not most people. No, I just got tired of looking for a song, and I hadn't heard it in a while, so I threw Chuck Berry in there.
You know what's going to feel like Christmas?
Oh, my God. What, Lucas?
Game Terminal's 4th annual Beer Fest, benefiting the Nashville Humane Association.
There are other things that you can read other than your thing.
Get ready for a day filled with beer, cider, and alcohol tastings, games, fun, and excitement. $40 online, $50 at the door, 1045thezone.com. It'll be fun this Saturday afternoon at Game Terminal.
Okay, very good. Got Run, Rudolph, and Lucas's beer thing he's told you about 17,000 times. 615-737-1045 is how you get in there in the meantime. Which Titans veteran, if I ask the audience, and the two of you, well, I'm sure Robert doesn't care. Are you thinking about any Ravens cap casualties back there? You got a Mark Andrews for me?
Yeah, what is the latest on Mark Andrews?
What, y'all want one? No, I think he's with the team. After paying his roster bonus, like it wouldn't make a lot of sense that after the draft is passed, there's not really anything someone could give them unless you're going to give them a plus starter in another situation that would outweigh the value he has to the Ravens. He is a free agent next year, though.
So cap casualties, like from the good teams. I'm thinking about things that the bad teams, like the Titans, can pick off from the good teams when it comes to cap casualty type of situations, because what we're getting ready to talk about and what I would like to know from the audience, 615-737-1045, which Titans veteran is most in danger of losing their job to a newcomer? That can be a free agent, that can be a draft pick, that can be a UDFA, you pick, but I'd be curious to know what your answer is. So I'm looking around at teams in the NFL who could do a little bit of roster trimming, and there's nothing to say that there couldn't still be more casualties around here, but they wouldn't be for cap purposes because this team still has somewhere 35, 40 ballpark to play with before they've accounted for rookie salary cap implications.
What constitutes a veteran? Are we putting any parameters on that, or is it simply any pre-existing starter?
So it used to be the rule was 3 years you're a vet, because that's the first time that they would let you get to the podium and talk to us. So once you hit true veteran status, that's when you're available to media at the podium like that. But I don't know if that just means, technically Levis would be in year 3. So that
was going to say, that's the most obvious answer.
Yes, one would say. Burks is also more than 3 years in at this point in time, but Burks doesn't have a job to lose. He's been a reserve here. Has he been a backup the entire time he's been here?
No, he was a starter last year because people were like, why the hell is he starting over Tyler Boyd? Why the hell is he not getting more?
He has
Well, it was
games.
over NWI, and he was getting, technically you are correct. He was on the field for their initial snaps, but he was DeAndre Hopkins' backup last year is how they described him. And then anything that he would earn unto himself may get him a bigger role, but obviously he didn't because he got hurt. This is something that I think you look at and you talk about, and you see all the different players that are coming in, and there's a tendency, a knee-jerk reaction to just kind of run players off that you're tired of. Levis is obviously somebody who fits both categories, as somebody who's underperformed and who fans are tired of and is going to be replaced by a number 1 overall pick at quarterback. But let's hear from Brian Callahan on how the dynamic works for him as a head coach, incorporating the vets with the rookies when it comes to jobs being on the line.
The thing that we talk about right now is that, this is different than college football. You're coming in to compete. You're coming in ultimately to try to take somebody's job. And there's a mindset that goes with that. And you're balancing two things. You're balancing that competitive piece and the chances to make a roster with, we're trying to build a good football team that's guys are connected and they're trying to help each other through it. And I think that's the nature of pro sports. There's always competition for jobs, but they have to understand that's what this is. This isn't a scholarship in college. You have to come in and compete every day, and you have to earn your right to be on the roster. There's going to be a lot of guys that are also fighting to keep those jobs, and that's what makes good teams. Is if you have good competition from top to bottom, you find yourself in a pretty good spot usually. But that's the mindset that these guys have to understand, and it changes. It becomes now a profession. It's a job. There's expectations that come with that.
That's Brian Callahan on Saturday. I brought up, did we do this on the radio show, or did we do this on primetime last night, Bert? The idea of Gunnar Helm being the one that I'm most interested. So I have 3. Cam Ward, obviously, as a newcomer who's coming in to take a starting job.
We played the audio of Mike Herndon saying he thinks Gunnar Helm will is the rookie outside of Cam Ward with the biggest opportunity to make a year one impact.
It was also on primetime last night. You're having trouble keeping your family separate. You're like, oh, happy birthday, darling. It's like, today's not my birthday.
They've got me hosting too many shows.
You've
Wrong
confused
family.
me with your other wife.
It's fine. I've got 3 of them that I think can at least contend for starting jobs right away. All right, Cam Ward, obviously. Gunnar Helm, because I think all 3 of them are different. And we talked about what Wiley's skill set is versus what Chig's skill set is versus what Gunnar Helm can bring to the table. And we played that Gunnar Helm audio for you yesterday. What about Kevin Winston Jr.? I know he's limited right now, but he's going to be a full year removed from the ACL tear in September. They expect him to hit the ground running in training camp, though they're, allowing him time to continue to rehab and recuperate right now. But is the Titans safety structure so set that Kevin Winston, who is built like an NFL player right now, and who Nick Saban said had he played last season, there was very much a world in which Saban could have envisioned Kevin Winston out of Penn State being a first-round pick. Would it be ridiculous to see Xavier Woods relegated to a third safety role if Kevin Winston can get out there and run with Amani Hooker right away?
No, it wouldn't be crazy. But again, like you said, Xavier Woods is a newcomer. Kevin Winston is a newcomer. Woods is the veteran that's been around. But Winston winning that job wouldn't necessarily be displacing anybody, right? Whereas Gunnar Helm comes in.
It depends on what you think about Mike Brown, but Mike Brown's not a starting caliber.
Exactly.
Like he has started games for this team here recently.
He has started games for this team, but he is not entrenched as a starter the way Amani Hooker is.
Sure.
Whereas Gunnar Helm comes in and could be in a position to rise up that depth chart pretty quickly above Josh Wiley and Chig Okonkwo.
The wide receivers are an interesting conversation, too, because if Ridley is your starting outside wide receiver and Boyd is your starting slot, then obviously you have a role on the outside. We're assuming that their starting offense is 3 wide receivers.
That's a full-blown competition to me. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Who that third starting receiver is going to be.
He may not even be on the roster yet, to be honest with you. Because I know some people were interested in seeing more of a role for Bryce Oliver. We'll see how it plays out in training camp. I think Bryce Oliver is absolutely entitled to compete with these new draft picks and UDFAs that they've brought in. Restrepo and Lockett feel like redundancies. Though Tyler Lockett, I don't know, Tyler Lockett at this stage of his career at 33, he is capable of playing on the outside more so than Restrepo would be. So theoretically, you could move Lockett more out of position to put Xavier Restrepo in as the starting slot if you felt that he had earned and gone out there and taken that job from somebody else. Gives you a little positional versatility there. We've asked Brian Callahan about the roles that they envision for Chimere Dike and Iamaner, and they're basically trying to get him a taste of everything to see what fits. And they've obviously got specific skill sets that they can play to, but you want them to know all 3 positions because rarely are you going to have 4 wide receivers out on the field at the same time. So, yeah, it's probably Gunnar Helm coming for that primary tight end spot. All 3 of them are going to have uses here, and it just depends on how much they're going to deploy. They did some stuff with Chig out of the backfield, right? You could have Gunnar Helm, theoretically, as your inline tight end and put Chig in the backfield with a running back behind him, right? They did a couple of those things last year. You've seen the Rams incorporate different concepts where they're running fullback passing plays out of the backfield, but they're deploying what's the white Rams receiver that's not Cooper Kupp? I know Cooper Kupp is obviously in Seattle now. Skoranek?
Yeah, but he's I believe he is with the Steelers now.
Okay. But anyway, I saw them run some concepts and I do this. Do you know who Coach Dan Casey is, Bert?
Dan Casey, no.
He's got a really good Twitter account and newsletter, and he sends you via email 1 play per day that's broken down from an all-22 standpoint. It's some really interesting concepts from college and the pros. And there's a million different things that you can do. You're more diverse as an offense because you've got this many different kinds of players to work with, which is ultimately what you're trying to achieve. It's just a question of, all right, let's see what fits. And that's what they're going to figure out in OTAs. and they'll figure out it more concretely in training camp. Of all the different players that we're looking at here, what about Arden?
You're talking about Femi Oladejo.
Draymond Jones is going to be a starting edge.
Yeah. Titans need Arden Key this season.
Sure, but can they relegate Arden Key more to the role that he should be in? Can you basically have one full-time starter and split the reps between the other two?
Yes, and I am fully preparing for the Titans pass rush to be among the worst, if not the worst unit in the NFL. Like, I am bracing myself for that. They were in that category last season. And 9 sacks went out the door with Harold Landry. And I get that you moved on from that contract, but I don't like I get you're like wincing and shaking your head. That's production. That's just what it is. It's production and it's out the door.
Yeah, but it's not impact. It's a number.
Sure.
Harold Landry is not an impact player at this point.
Yeah, but production has an impact, yes? Okay, and you have to replace that production.
Last year.
Like, you have to replace that production. Right, and you lost that. And so right now the expectation for me is this will be one of the worst pass rushing groups again in the NFL.
Yeah.
They didn't meaningfully upgrade there. Like Draymond Jones, nice player. Arden Key, nice rotational player. We've seen Arden Key come up huge in some games. We've seen him really pop in some games. Like random single game performances.
Well, that's because Arden
2.5 sacks.
I think Arden, that was the Detroit game right around the trade deadline. I think Arden was trying to, that would be reckless speculation.
What, he just tried harder because of the trade deadline? Either way.
Would that be the most ridiculous thing in the world?
Either way, reckless speculation.
You see players try harder in a contract year, don't you? Okay.
I am fully anticipating the Titans pass rush to be one of the worst units in the NFL this year. Yeah. So, I'm honestly not really getting worked up about who are your two stars. Like, you have who you have right now.
Oh, yeah.
And Oladejo is a project.
And they're all going to play.
Yes. And you have a project sitting there with a ton of traits that you are going to need to be impactful from day one, even if he's not ready to be.
Some comments from YouTube that I think are interesting. Two-Tone on YouTube says Landry was a sack cleanup guy for Simmons, and he was not a leader. Dude never said bleep. Well, Harold was famously not a fan of talking, like certainly talking to the media. Teammates love Harold Landry. Harold is an incredibly hard worker. You can lead in more ways than just one. Jeff Simmons is a different kind of leader than Derrick Henry was. Harold Landry is a different kind of leader than Jeff is. Both of them are different kind of leaders than Tannehill was, Byard. Like all these different leadership examples that you cite, you can lead in more ways than one. The question is, do you have a good enough brain trust, essentially, to support a locker room that way? And the Titans didn't last year, and that's not Harold's fault. And I think that's a complete misreading of the situation. Now, I will agree with the cleanup thing. I don't think Harold Landry was an impact player, certainly not for the cost. I guess I shouldn't be shocked to see him get that contract in New England, but I think if you had to question some of the moves made around the league, that Harold Landry contract in New England is not something I'd expect to age well. At any case, we're going to have some time before we get to see voluntary work start to kick off. And the Titans are obviously working on the field, but I mean from an open portion perspective. And I know Titans fans are clamoring constantly, at least the ones on the internet, about not seeing enough of Cam Ward and not hyping Cam Ward enough about those things. And I don't know if they're doing this intentionally. I suppose I could ask. But on the social media stuff. So you're a Vols fan. You get excited about when the Vols do cool things on social media. The Vols social media, Vols content team is very good at what they do, yes?
Yes, they are.
You are a Titans fan. Are you somebody who gets excited about the idea or wants more of team-centric hype content, especially at this time of year? Because it's everywhere right now, but there is a contingent of Titans fans that are claiming they are not getting enough from the team itself.
I get why people want more Cam Ward highlights, but no, it means nothing to me, yeah. The lack of Cam Ward throwing on air with no pads, that means nothing to me right now.
But to some people, they're alleging that the Titans are missing a terrible opportunity or a missed opportunity to get people excited about Cam Ward, this, that, and the other. Okay. The opposite side of that is And again, I don't know if they're doing this intentionally or maybe they're just bad at producing content. I don't know. But if they were to do this intentionally and slow play expectations after overselling the holy hell out of people last year on how good this football team was going to be, I would, I think, heap praise upon them for not gaslighting people right now about the football team, even if it is just Cam Ward highlights. And a part of me, and I'm looking forward to getting to know more about Cam Ward in this way, but a part of me thinks that Cam Ward isn't somebody who wants all of that stuff out there without having to go out there and do it unto himself and show people that he belongs. And it doesn't matter where you're drafted. It's about the work. It doesn't matter how many cool hype videos you've got. It's about the work, all these different things. Again, I don't know if any of this is being done intentionally or unintentionally, but I know it's something that Titans fans have been curious about online.
Yeah, I just wouldn't think he cares one way or another, which I do love about him.
Yeah. No, I would agree.
A team that it does seem is planned. Have you guys looked at the Cleveland Browns Twitter in the last week?
Their team Twitter account?
Yes.
No, the only reason I've seen it is because of that Jeremiah Owosu Koromora. Is that how I say it? J-O-K? Koromoa.
Yep.
I'm pretty close.
Yeah, not bad.
Not good. Well, that could be said of the radio show. Not bad, but not good either. That's too bad about him. He's being placed on reserved PUP. He's not going to play at all for them. That's a big blow. He's a good player when he's healthy, but he's got some kind of scary neck injury. What else is on the Browns timeline that I need to know about?
They are, yesterday, May 12th, you saw at Shador Sanders. First day on the job was full of memorable moments, and they're following around the facility, checking out his locker.
Him?
Yes.
Just him?
Just him. And he has to say, like, oh, look at my swag, look at my drip, look how cool my locker is.
Legendary.
Even though I would argue that the locker room at Colorado is probably nicer than the locker room at Cleveland.
I won't say every Power 4 college locker room is probably nicer than the nicest NFL locker rooms.
Outside of Pittsburgh, because they share theirs with Pittsburgh.
Okay, outside of Pittsburgh.
The only Dylan Gabriel content you got if you were a Cleveland Brown fan were yapping with Dylan, and it's Andrew Siciliano talking with Dylan Gabriel.
Like just on...
No, just in the back. It looks like a broom closet,
chatting.
honestly.
They're in a broom closet.
Yeah, so...
Does Andrew Siciliano work for the Browns now?
I believe he calls their games on radio, but I could be wrong about that.
Okay.
That's fun. So that's Brown's social media doing what is going to work best on the internet. What's going to get the most traction on the internet, good, bad, or indifferent, right, is Shador Sanders. That's the kind of stuff. Dylan Gabriel gave a comment the other day about getting questions from the media and how questions on the quarterback snap division is only going to divide the team or could only divide the team or this, that, and the other. No, stuff like that is going to be divisive. You're a vet, 10-year vet on the Cleveland Browns. I don't know how many 10-year vets are on the Cleveland Browns right now, but let's just assume there's some. And you see all this Shador Sanders content being produced from the team account when Shador Sanders is a fifth-round pick who's got a quarterback drafted ahead of him in his own rookie class and who, according to multiple people at Browns camp, he doesn't look better. And I know their routes on air, and I know they're working with new teammates for the first time, new coaches, all these different things. But Tony Grossi, who's been covering the Browns for, I swear, 100 years, has put out several reports to the effect of Dylan Gabriel looking substantially better than Shador Sanders through the early part of Browns camp so far. Again, it's just the first couple of days. But that's the kind of stuff that would divide a locker room. That's the thing that you're trying to avoid, not just for the sake of off-season engagement and giving fans what they want. Let me see more Shador. No, let him do something.
Speaking of giving fans what they want, we have kickoff times for the SEC versus ACC games in week 1 of the college football season.
Yeah, very good. We can talk about those coming up next. Last call for phone calls if you got them on Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Last call for phone calls if you got them. Lucas told us we have a little bit of SEC, ACC football scheduling news to get to before we update some polls. What do you got for me?
So the SEC has 3 matchups against ACC teams in week 1. Syracuse plays Tennessee, Alabama taking on Florida State, LSU versus Clemson, and South Carolina, Virginia Tech. The Syracuse-Tennessee game will be the earliest of those games in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, neutral site, 11 a.m. Central on ABC. Bama and Florida State will face off in Tallahassee at 2:30 on ABC, and LSU and Clemson get the primetime slot at 6:30 on Saturday night. South Carolina, Virginia Tech will be the Sunday afternoon game on opening weekend.
What a cakewalk.
Oh, for the ACC?
Yes, that's what I was alluding to.
Yes. ACC going to go 3-0.
Where are all the powerhouses at? Give us Georgia. Give us a good SEC team. Why are they giving the ACC all these scraps, all these throwaways? Might as well throw Vanderbilt in there.
What do we think? What?
You don't want upset. You don't want the upset Commodores, baby. The cardiac Commodores.
Hey, they beat Virginia Tech last year.
Yeah.
Are you projecting a 3-0 weekend for the ACC in week 1, which will be upon us quicker than we think?
Oh, I would love that if that was the case.
No, I'm predicting.
If we came in here after that weekend and the SEC got swept, oh my God.
I'm predicting a 4-0 week.
4-0? Where's the 4th win coming from?
Syracuse, Tennessee. Syracuse, dub. Alabama, Florida State. Florida State, dub. LSU, Clemson. Clemson, dub. South Carolina, Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, dub.
How you can say anything with confidence about Florida State after the way Florida State looked last year is wild.
Where's
to me.
the
I know they
4th one?
fired their whole coaching staff under Norvell.
Oh, my God. I know we're not good at math. Syracuse, Tennessee, 1. Alabama, Florida State, 2. LSU, Clemson.
Oh, yeah, that is 4.
Jesus.
That daggum SEC education. We're about playing football.
That is a brutally tough road matchup for LSU in week 1. They've had their week 1 struggles. In the Brian Kelly era, he was smashing the podium table after the loss to USC last year.
Performatively.
Of course. And then before that, Florida State, back-to-back losses in week 1. LSU cannot get a damn week 1 win under Brian Kelly. And now they got to go to Clemson.
No, but they've had opportunities. They have had opportunities slip from their grasp.
Well, and to their credit, like they have largely played, not contenders. USC was anything but a contender last year, but high-profile programs in these games. A lot of neutral site games. This isn't a neutral site game. LSU's going to Death Valley. It's the meeting of the 2 Death Valley programs.
Meetings of the 2 Tigers.
That's right.
There's a lot of connections off the field in these and on the field. Syracuse and Tennessee, Battle of the Big Orange.
Clemson about to be back.
Clemson is.
They feel like the one that
pull up national championship odds.
That has been a bit. I mean, they've obviously had success, but not up to their standard. Like Clemson feels like they could be back in the running for a national title favorite this year.
So Josh Pate was doing this on his show where he went back. I can't remember what the figure was, 7 of the last 8 or whatever the figure was of the last X amount of national champions. Most of them, almost all of them, have had the most players taken in the first round of the subsequent draft. Like Ohio State players led the way in the 2025 NFL draft after they won the championship. So Pate did an exercise of looking around at mock drafts and way too early 2026 mocks on, which program currently has the most players being mocked in the first round of the 2026 draft, and that was Clemson. Cade Klubnik's one of the best returning quarterbacks in the country. Right now, Texas, according to FanDuel, is tied with Ohio State as the co-favorites to win the national title next year, each plus 600. Georgia plus 700, Oregon plus 800, Penn State also plus 800. Then you get down to Bama, then you get down to Notre Dame, and then Clemson, who is plus 1,400 to win the national championship.
Friend of the show, Jordan Reed, also has Cade Klubnik as his number 1 quarterback in next year's draft.
Perhaps we should talk to Jordan Reed about this and several other things. Draft analyst for ESPN Radio, college football. Doesn't he do games for ESPN?
No, he does. He's a game analyst.
Sideline reporter?
ESPN Radio. No, he's an analyst.
Oh, he's an analyst.
Yeah.
Okay.
He does college football games for ESPN Radio.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good time to talk to Jordan.
Speaking of, so the debut of the Mike Keith, Ramon Foster tandem on the Vol Network will be an 11 a.m. kickoff against Syracuse in Atlanta, August 30th.
Hady's got a debut with a loss, man. That's tough. That is tough.
Is Syracuse going to be any good?
I don't know. I'm lying about all of this.
No, I know. You're trying to, like, it would objectively, not to Lucas and the vast majority of the fans listening, but mostly to me and Robert, it would be funny to hear Mike and Ramon together for the first time. Everybody's excited about it. Everybody's hype about it, and they lose to Syracuse.
I'm sure Mike and Ramon would appreciate you saying that.
I love them both. I don't wish any ill on them.
No, except you want their debut on Vol Network to fall incredibly flat.
It would be objectively funny.
I love when you say I don't wish ill on people and then immediately wish ill on them.
I don't wish ill on them, but a pest. A pest of locusts.
A plague is what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I think so.
Whatever.
Pestilence.
The Syracuse quarterback to come in and replace Kyle McCord is Steve Angeli, the Notre Dame transfer, who hit the portal after it seems like he's going to lose the job to C.J. Carr. Maybe Kenny Minchie, the local product. We'll see who comes out of that job for the Irish. But Angeli moved up to Syracuse. So Fran Brown, one of the best young coaches in the country. It's not going to be easy.
Got a couple of Game 5s tonight in the NBA. Enjoyed the Knicks and the Celtics last night. Well, I'd say enjoyed. It was a great game until Jason Tatum got hurt. And again, we still don't have an update on the severity of that injury, right? He got taken out.
It's feared to be an Achilles.
It was a really tough image of him being wheeled out of the bowels of Madison Square Garden last night. ESPN had a camera in the tunnel, I guess, and him being wheeled out in a chair. After the fact, holding his head in his hands. It's brutal. So you hate to see that, especially because he was exceptional. I know he got a little sloppy towards the end, but he had 42 points en route to the Knicks being able to
42.
Pull away from the Celtics at the Garden last night. So tonight you've got the Cavs hosting my Indiana Pacers. You've got the Oklahoma City Thunder hosting the Nuggets, a series that is tied at 2-2. I am shocked that Cleveland has been as bad as they have been. These NBA playoffs haven't been overwhelmingly close in some of these games, but they have been fascinating.
Game 4 was an embarrassment for Cleveland. An absolute embarrassment.
They have embarrassed themselves after how good they were throughout the course of the regular season. And Pacers are a scrappy team, and Halliburton, I know he's riding this most overrated player vibe and proving everybody wrong, and sometimes that can be all you need. But it is the Cavs fans should not be overwhelmingly thrilled, down 3-1 in this series at this point in time. Ready for some polls, or what are you playing with back there?
Huh?
Polls.
I don't like that you asked me, what you playing with back there, son?
Yeah, because that'd be the most surprising thing in the world.
Quit pulling on that thing, play some polls.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. I might be wrong about Syracuse's starting quarterback. It might be the LSU transfer, Ricky Collins, and not Steve Angeli. But I don't know. We'll see. That'd be tough for Steve Angeli to transfer just to end up being a backup again. What in sports made you say, oh no, this weekend? Mike Titan says the Mavs winning the first pick. Kenneth, most people saying the rigged NBA draft lottery that Buck wants instituted in the NFL. So
not the rigged part.
Not only did you say, is it rigged, you also said you want that in the NFL now. So Titans reporter Buck Rising wants the NFL draft to be rigged. Will Bill Belichick
give me plenty to talk about.
Coach a single game at North Carolina? 69% nice say yes. In the end, he will end up coaching games. Pablo Torre reporting that he might not because of how his buyout is structured.
It is more likely than not that Bill Belichick coaches a game for the University of North Carolina, but that there is even a conversation around that not happening at all is craziness.
How do you feel about the Titans not getting an international game? 97.4%, this is some of the most disparity we've had in the poll, said fine by me. Only 2.6% of 500 votes said they wanted one.
Yeah, they just went over in 23. So, I mean, maybe with more time, that'll be more interesting to people. But I think especially at the cost of a home game, most fans are like, yeah, I'm good.
Doesn't benefit anybody except the NFL. Should the NFL adopt the NBA's draft lottery? 90% say no, and that is the correct opinion. Which Titans veteran is most likely to have his job taken by a rookie? Probably should have put...
That's not named Will Levis.
Not named Will Levis, so it was a bad job by you, and you framed the poll. But there was a submission by Holden for Xavier Woods.
A bad job by me when I what?
Yes, when you wrote the poll.
When I asked you what polls we had, and then you tweeted them from my account.
Again, this bit you're doing, it's getting tired. You should hang it up. Those are the polls.
The same could be said of this radio show.
That's true.
Hang it up. All right, that's going to do it for us today. No prime time tonight. Have a great rest of your evening. Blaine and Zach are coming up next. They'll keep you entertained. See you tomorrow.